Victoria Hale had built an empire on control. Every case won, every emotion locked down, every relationship kept at arm's length. At 47, she'd perfected the art of being untouchable. Then Ryan Cole walked into her office with his daughter's hand in his, 20 years younger and impossibly out of place. And in less than 60 seconds, every wall she'd spent decades building began to crack. What she didn't know yet was that this single father with kind eyes and a gentle smile would become the one choice that terrified her more than any courtroom battle, and the only one that could save her from the life she'd resigned herself to living. But before they could find their way to each other, they'd have to survive judgment, doubt, and the ghosts of everything they'd lost. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you're already hooked, hit that like button and stick around until the end. Trust me, you won't want to miss where this goes. The law offices of Morrison and Hale occupied the 32nd floor of the Riverside Tower, where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a painting of success. Victoria Hale stood at her desk, reviewing a deposition transcript with the focused intensity that had made her one of the most respected attorneys in the state. At 47, she commanded every room she entered, not through volume, but through presence. Her dark hair was pulled back in a flawless twist, her charcoal suit impeccable, her expression unreadable. She'd learned long ago that emotion was a liability in her profession. Control everything, reveal nothing, win always. It had worked for 23 years. "Ms. Hale?" Her assistant Jennifer's voice came through the intercom. "Your 3 o'clock is here." Victoria glanced at her schedule. Ryan Cole. Pro bono consultation regarding a housing dispute. She'd blocked out 30 minutes, more than enough time to assess the situation and refer him to legal aid if needed. She made a point of taking one pro bono case per quarter. It was good for the firm's image, and occasionally genuinely satisfying. "Send him in." She expected a middle-aged man, probably frustrated, possibly angry about some landlord issue. What walked through her door was something else entirely. Ryan Cole was younger than she'd anticipated, late 20s, maybe 30 at most. He wore khakis and a button-down shirt that looked recently ironed, work boots that had seen actual work. But what caught her off guard was the little girl whose hand he held. She couldn't have been more than 6, with light brown hair in 2 careful braids and enormous hazel eyes that took in Victoria's office with quiet wonder. "Mr. Cole!" Victoria stood, extending her hand. Professional, controlled. "Ms. Hale, thank you for seeing us." His handshake was warm, firm, genuine. When he smiled, something in his eyes made her forget her next words for half a second. "I hope it's okay that I brought Emma. My sitter canceled last minute, and I didn't want to miss the appointment." "Of course." Victoria's gaze dropped to the little girl, who was looking up at her with curious intensity. "Hello, Emma." "Hi." Emma's voice was soft but clear. "You have a very tall building." "We do." Victoria found herself almost smiling. Almost. "Would you like to see the view?" Emma looked up at her father, who nodded. The little girl walked carefully to the window, pressing her nose against the glass. "Please sit." Victoria gestured to the chairs across from her desk, reclaiming her professional distance. She sat, pulled up his file on her computer, and scanned the details. "You're being evicted from your apartment. The landlord is claiming lease violations." "Violations that don't exist." Ryan's voice remained calm, but she heard the steel underneath. "I've been there 3 years, never late on rent, never caused problems. But the building sold last month and the new owner wants to renovate and triple the rent. He's manufacturing violations to force out the existing tenants." "That's illegal." Victoria's fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up tenant protection statutes. "I know. I also know I can't afford to fight it without help." Ryan leaned forward slightly. "That apartment is our home. Emma's school is 2 blocks away. The park where we go every Saturday is across the street. I'm not trying to live somewhere I can't afford. I just want to keep the home we already have." Victoria studied him. There was no desperation in his voice, no manipulation, just quiet, determined honesty. She respected that. "Walk me through the timeline. When did you receive the first violation notice?" For the next 20 minutes, Victoria asked questions while Ryan answered with the kind of detailed accuracy that made her job easier. He'd kept every document, every email, every receipt. He'd photographed the apartment regularly, time-stamped evidence that contradicted every violation claim. "Daddy, can I draw?" Emma had returned from the window, holding up a small notebook and crayon set from her backpack. "Sure, sweetheart. Quiet drawing, okay?" "Okay." Emma settled into the chair next to Ryan, opened her notebook, and became absorbed in creating what looked like a very elaborate rainbow. Victoria found her attention splitting between the case details and the gentle way Ryan occasionally glanced at his daughter, a small smile touching his face whenever he did. There was something about the dynamic between them, the ease, the trust, the obvious love, that created a strange tightness in her chest. She'd been married once, divorced 8 years now, no children. By choice, she'd always told herself. Her career demanded everything, and she'd given it willingly. "Mr. Cole, your case is straightforward. The landlord is violating tenant protection laws, and you have excellent documentation. I can file an emergency stay on the eviction and sue for harassment. The question is whether you want to stay in a building where your landlord is actively hostile." "I want my daughter to keep her home." His answer was immediate, definitive. "I want her to walk to the same school with the same friends. I want her to have stability, whatever it takes." Victoria nodded slowly. "Then we'll make sure she gets it." Something in Ryan's expression shifted. Relief, gratitude, something deeper she couldn't quite name. "Thank you. I don't know how to thank you enough." You can start by gathering any additional documentation. Security camera footage from the building if available, statements from other tenants facing similar issues. The stronger our case, the faster we can resolve this. "I'll get everything you need." He stood, extending his hand again. "Thank you, Ms. Hale. Really." She took his hand, and that strange current of connection sparked again. His eyes held hers for just a second too long, and she saw something there, recognition, maybe. As if he'd felt it too. "Bye," Emma waved enthusiastically, still clutching her crayon. "Thank you for letting me draw in your office." "You're very welcome, Emma." After they left, Victoria sat at her desk longer than necessary, staring at the closed door. Then she pulled up Ryan's file again, this time reading the personal information she'd skipped before. Age, 29. Occupation, construction supervisor. Marital status, widowed. Widowed at 29 with a young daughter. The information hit her harder than it should have. She closed the file and returned to work. But for the rest of the afternoon, she found her mind drifting back to kind eyes and a little girl's careful braids, and the feeling that something had just shifted in her carefully controlled world. A week later, Victoria was reviewing case files in her office when Jennifer buzzed her. "Ms. Hale, there's a Ryan Cole here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it'll just take a minute." Victoria glanced at her schedule. She had 15 minutes before her next meeting. "Send him in." Ryan entered carrying a small cardboard box, and this time he was alone. "I'm sorry to drop by unannounced. I brought the additional documentation you asked for, and I wanted to give you this." He set the box on her desk. Emma insisted. Victoria opened it to find a carefully wrapped sandwich, a small container of fruit, and a hand-drawn card. The front showed 2 stick figures, one tall with dark hair, one small with braids, and the words, "Thank you, Mrs. Hale," in careful, crooked letters. Inside, Emma had drawn what appeared to be Victoria's office, complete with the tall windows and a very detailed rainbow in the sky outside. She wanted to thank you for letting her draw. Ryan's smile was almost apologetic. "She made you lunch because she said you work very hard and probably forget to eat." Victoria stared at the card, something unfamiliar and uncomfortable tightening in her throat. When was the last time someone had made her lunch? When was the last time anyone had thought about whether she ate at all? "That's very kind." Her voice came out softer than intended. "Please tell her thank you." "You can tell her yourself if you want. We're going to the park Saturday afternoon if the weather holds. The one by our apartment." He paused, as if weighing his next words. "You'd be welcome to join us. I know it's not professional, but Emma would love it. And honestly, I could use someone to talk to who isn't 6 years old. No pressure, just if you wanted." Victoria should have said no. Should have maintained boundaries, kept distance, stayed professional. But something about the genuine invitation, no agenda, no expectation, made her hesitate. "What time? 2 o'clock? There's a coffee cart near the entrance if you want to grab something first." "I'll think about it." Ryan smiled, and that warmth in his eyes sparked again. I hope you do. After he left, Victoria sat with Emma's card in her hands for a long time. Then she tucked it carefully into her desk drawer where she wouldn't lose it. Saturday arrived with clear skies and unseasonable warmth. Victoria told herself she was just going for a walk. The park happened to be on a reasonable route. If she ran into Ryan and Emma, it would be coincidental. She didn't examine why she changed outfits 3 times before settling on jeans and a casual sweater, clothes she rarely wore. She definitely didn't think about the fact that she was wearing jeans to meet a client in a park on a Saturday afternoon. The park was bustling with weekend crowds. Families spread blankets on the grass, dogs chased frisbees, children shrieked with joy on the playground. Victoria stood at the entrance, suddenly uncertain. This wasn't her world. She didn't do spontaneous park visits. She didn't blur professional lines. Ms. Hale! Emma's voice cut through her hesitation. The little girl was running toward her, braids flying, Ryan jogging behind to keep up. You came! Emma crashed into Victoria's legs with a hug that nearly knocked her off balance. Emma, gentle. Ryan caught up, slightly breathless, smiling. I wasn't sure you'd make it. I was nearby. The lie came easily, professionally smooth. Ryan's knowing look said he didn't believe her for a second, but he didn't challenge it. Want to get coffee? Emma already had juice, but I could use caffeine. They walked to the coffee cart, Emma between them, chattering about her week at school. Victoria found herself listening with genuine interest as Emma described her best friend's birthday party and the very difficult math problem she'd solved, and the book her teacher was reading to the class. She has good days and hard days, Ryan said quietly, while Emma ran ahead to examine a flower bed. Most days she's this happy, but sometimes she asks about her mom, and those days are... He trailed off, pain flickering across his face. How long has it been? 3 years. Emma was 3 when Sarah died. Cancer, aggressive, fast. 6 months from diagnosis to... He stopped, took a breath. Sorry, that's heavy for a Saturday afternoon. Don't apologize. Victoria surprised herself by touching his arm briefly. I can't imagine how difficult that was. We survived. Ryan watched Emma, who was now showing a patient elderly woman the flower she'd picked. Emma's my reason for everything. Every morning I wake up, every decision I make, it's all for her. There was no self-pity in his voice, just fact, stated simply. They got coffee and found a bench with a view of the playground. Emma immediately ran off to the swings, waving at them before launching herself into motion. She's remarkable, Victoria said. She is. Ryan's pride was obvious. Incredibly kind, too smart for her own good, and stubborn as hell when she wants to be. Wonder where she gets that from? Ryan laughed. Definitely her mother. I'm the easygoing one. They fell into conversation with surprising ease. Ryan asked about her work, and Victoria found herself actually talking about it. Not the polished elevator pitch she gave at networking events, but the real satisfaction of winning a case, the frustration of legal loopholes, the challenge of balancing justice with practicality. You love it, Ryan observed. The way you talk about it, you really love what you do. I do. It's demanding, sometimes overwhelming, but yes, I love it. That's rare. Most people I know just tolerate their jobs. Oh, what about you? Do you love construction work? Ryan considered. I love building things. Taking raw materials and creating something solid. Something that lasts. There's satisfaction in that. But honestly, what I love most is that it lets me provide for Emma. I've got good hours, decent benefits, and I'm home for dinner every night. That matters more than whether I'm passionate about drywall. Victoria had never thought about work that way. For her, career had always been identity, purpose. The thing that defined her worth. You're staring, Ryan said gently. Sorry, you have an interesting perspective. You mean different from yours? Yes. That's not a bad thing. His smile was easy, without judgment. Different perspectives keep life interesting. Emma ran up, breathless and beaming. Push me on the swings? Sure, sweetheart. Ryan stood, then glanced at Victoria. Want to join us? Victoria almost declined, almost retreated to safe professional distance. But something about the afternoon, the warmth, the ease, the simple joy of it, made her nod instead. I'd like that. She spent the next hour pushing Emma on the swings, helping her across the monkey bars, watching Ryan chase her around the playground with exaggerated monster sounds that made Emma shriek with laughter. Victoria couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed this freely, moved this unself-consciously, felt this light. When Emma finally wore herself out, they walked slowly back through the park. Emma held both their hands, swinging between them, humming a tune Victoria didn't recognize. "Thank you for coming," Ryan said as they neared the park entrance. "This was really nice." "It was." Victoria meant it. "Thank you for inviting me. We're here most Saturdays if the weather's good. You're always welcome." It wasn't a date. It wasn't anything more than friendly. But the way he looked at her said he felt it too, that connection, that pull, that sense of something beginning. "I'll keep that in mind." Emma tugged on her hand. "Will you come next week?" Victoria looked down at those earnest hazel eyes and found herself incapable of disappointing them. "If I can, I will." "Promise?" "I promise to try." Emma seemed satisfied with that. She released Victoria's hand and wrapped her arms around Ryan's leg. "I'm tired, Daddy." "I bet you are. Say goodbye to Miss Hale." "Bye? Thank you for playing with me," Emma waved enthusiastically. "Thank you for letting me." Victoria waved back, feeling oddly bereft as they walked away. She stood there longer than necessary, watching them disappear into the crowd. Ryan looked back once, caught her eye, smiled. And Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in years. Anticipation. Hope. The terrifying possibility of something new. The following week brought a breakthrough in Ryan's case. The landlord's attorney, faced with Victoria's comprehensive evidence of tenant harassment, agreed to a settlement. Ryan could stay in his apartment at his current rent, locked in for 5 years with all manufactured violations expunged from his record. Victoria called to tell him the news Wednesday afternoon. "Are you serious?" Ryan's voice cracked with emotion. Victoria, that's incredible." She noticed he'd dropped the Ms. Hale and found she didn't mind. "You did most of the work with your documentation. I just made sure the law was on your side." "I can't thank you enough. Can I take you to dinner to celebrate?" Victoria hesitated. Dinner crossed a line. Dinner was clearly, definitively not professional. "As friends," Ryan added quickly. "I promise I'll bring Emma as a chaperone if that makes you more comfortable." That made her laugh. "That's not necessary. So is that a yes?" She should say no. Every professional instinct screamed at her to maintain distance, but Victoria was tired of always listening to those instincts, tired of letting fear make every decision. "Yes, but I'm paying. You're my client." "Former client, technically, since the case is resolved. But fine, we can argue about the check when we get there." They met Friday night at a small Italian restaurant Emma had apparently been begging to try. Ryan wore a dark sweater that brought out the green in his hazel eyes. Emma wore a dress covered in sunflowers and her ever-present braids. "You look really pretty," Emma announced when Victoria arrived in a simple blue dress and heels. "Thank you, so do you." Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Emma insisted on ordering fancy pasta and proceeded to get marinara sauce on her face, her dress, and somehow the table. Ryan navigated it with practiced calm, wiping faces and hands while maintaining conversation with Victoria about everything and nothing. "What's your favorite color?" Emma asked Victoria seriously while waiting for dessert. "I'm not sure I have one. Maybe blue?" "Mine's purple. Daddy's is green. What's your favorite food?" "Emma, Ms. Hale doesn't want to be interrogated," Ryan said gently. "It's fine." Victoria smiled at Emma. "I like Thai food. What's yours?" "Pizza and ice cream. Ice cream is the best food." "Ice cream is a dessert, not a food," Ryan corrected. "It should be a food. If I was the president, I would make ice cream a food and everyone could eat it for breakfast." "That's an interesting platform," Victoria said seriously. "You'd have my vote." Emma beamed. Ryan met Victoria's eyes across the table, and something warm passed between them. Shared amusement, shared affection for this remarkable little girl, shared acknowledgement that this dinner meant something neither of them was quite ready to name. After dessert, they walked to the nearby park. Their park. Victoria had started thinking of it. Emma ran ahead to the now empty playground, her energy somehow replenished despite the late hour. She's going to crash hard when we get home, Ryan said, watching her with a fond smile. She's wonderful. You've done an amazing job with her. I've tried. Some days I feel like I'm barely keeping my head above water, but then she'll do something like make lunch for someone she barely knows because she thinks they work too hard. And I think maybe I'm not completely screwing it up. Victoria turned to look at him fully. You're not screwing it up. She's happy, kind, confident, secure. That doesn't happen by accident. Ryan held her gaze. Thank you. That means a lot, especially coming from you. Why especially from me? Because you don't say things you don't mean. You're honest, even when it's hard. I respect that. The evening air had cooled and Victoria shivered slightly. Immediately, Ryan shrugged off his jacket. Here. I'm fine. Victoria, just take the jacket. She took it, wrapping it around her shoulders. It smelled like him. Clean, warm, faintly like sawdust, and something she couldn't name but immediately liked. Can I ask you something? Ryan's voice was quieter now, more serious. Of course. Why did you really come to the park that first Saturday? Victoria could lie, could deflect, could retreat behind professional walls, but she found she didn't want to. Because Emma made me lunch and I couldn't stop thinking about it. Because you invited me and it felt genuine. Because I realized I couldn't remember the last time someone asked me to do something just for the joy of it, with no agenda, no networking, no professional benefit. She paused. Because you made me curious about what I might be missing. Ryan stepped closer. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. And? Are you missing something? I'm beginning to think I might be. Daddy, come push me. Emma's call broke the moment, but the connection lingered. Ryan smiled ruefully. Duty calls. Go, I'll watch. She did watch. Ryan pushing Emma on the swings, the two of them lit by streetlights and moonlight, their laughter carrying across the empty park. And Victoria felt something shift inside her, some long-locked door beginning to open. When Emma finally tired, Ryan walked Victoria to her car. Thank you for dinner, he said, and for everything you did for us. It was my pleasure, all of it. Can I see you again? Not as a former client. Just as Ryan? Victoria knew what she should say. She should create distance, maintain boundaries, protect herself from the complication this would inevitably become. But for once, she didn't want to be sensible. I'd like that. Ryan's smile could have lit the entire park. Saturday? The park again if you want. Or we could do something different. The park is good. Emma knows where to find me there. She does, and so do I. He didn't kiss her, didn't push for more than she was ready to give. He just smiled, took Emma's hand, and walked away. But the warmth in his eyes promised more. When she was ready, if she wanted it, it would be there waiting. Victoria drove home with his jacket still wrapped around her shoulders, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she went to bed smiling. The next Saturday became a pattern, and the Saturday after that. Sometimes they'd grab coffee first. Sometimes Emma would drag them straight to the playground. Sometimes they'd walk along the river, Emma running ahead while Victoria and Ryan talked about everything. Her cases, his work, books, movies, childhood memories, dreams they'd given up on, and dreams they still held. 3 weeks in, Emma fell asleep on a park bench between them after wearing herself out, her head pillowed on Ryan's lap. She really trusts you, Ryan said softly, running gentle fingers through her hair. She doesn't usually fall asleep around people she doesn't know well. I'm honored. You should be. Emma's got good instincts about people. Victoria looked at the sleeping child, peaceful and trusting, and felt that unfamiliar tightness in her chest again. Ryan, can I ask you something? Always. Aren't you worried about this, about what we're doing? What are we doing? I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know what this is, and I don't know where it's going, and I don't know if I'm capable of being what you and Emma need. Ryan was quiet for a moment. I'm not asking you to be anything except yourself. I like you, Victoria. I like how you think, how you see the world, how you are with Emma. I like talking to you. I like that you're honest and smart, and you make me think about things differently. He paused. And yeah, I'm attracted to you. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. But I'm not pushing for anything you're not ready for. If this is just friendship, I'm good with that. If it becomes more, I'm good with that too. I'm 47, Ryan. You're 29. I'm almost 20 years older than you. I can do math. His smile was gentle. Does that bother you? It should. But does it? Victoria thought about the past few weeks, the ease between them, the way conversation flowed, the way she found herself looking forward to Saturdays with an anticipation she hadn't felt in years, the way Emma had somehow worked her way into Victoria's carefully guarded heart. Not as much as I expected it to. Then why are we talking about it like it's a problem? Because people will judge, they'll assume things, they'll question your motives, my judgment. It won't be easy. I didn't ask for easy. I asked if you wanted to see me again. Victoria looked at him, really looked. At the kindness in his eyes, the strength in his shoulders, the gentle way he held his sleeping daughter. At the man who'd somehow slipped past every defense she'd built and made her want things she'd convinced herself she didn't need. I do. I want to see you again. Then that's all that matters. He was wrong, of course. Other things would matter. Practicality, logistics, the reality of their different lives. But sitting there in the fading afternoon light with Emma asleep between them and the promise of something new hanging in the air, Victoria let herself believe him. Just for a moment, she let herself believe that wanting something might be enough. The shift from friendship to something more happened gradually, then all at once. It was in the way Ryan started walking her to her car after every Saturday, his hand occasionally brushing hers. In the way Victoria found herself texting him during the week, funny stories from work, questions about Emma, random thoughts she wanted to share. It was in the way Emma started calling her Miss Victoria instead of Ms. Hale, the formality softening into affection. It was in the way Victoria caught herself thinking about them during long meetings, smiling at her phone when Ryan sent pictures of Emma's latest art project or the sunset from their apartment window. And then one Saturday, a month and a half after that first park meeting, it rained. Victoria showed up anyway, umbrella in hand, not quite ready to admit to herself why she hadn't just texted to cancel. Ryan was there too, Emma bundled in a yellow raincoat, both of them grinning at her from under the park pavilion. You came, Ryan said. So did you. Emma insisted. She said you promised, and she was sure you'd be here. Emma nodded seriously. You always keep your promises. How had this child learned to see her so clearly? They couldn't play on the wet playground equipment, so instead they walked the covered path along the river, Emma splashing in every puddle while Victoria and Ryan followed with umbrellas. I got offered a case, Victoria said. High-profile corporate lawsuit. It could make my career. That's amazing. Ryan's enthusiasm sounded genuine. It's also going to consume my life for the next 6 months, maybe longer. 60-hour weeks minimum, probably more. Travel, constant deadlines. Understanding crossed Ryan's face. And you're telling me this because I don't want you to think I'm pulling away if I can't do Saturdays for a while. Because I don't want Emma to think I forgot about her. Because this... She gestured between them. Whatever this is, it's important to me, and I don't want it to end before it really begins. Ryan stopped walking. Emma had run ahead, chasing a particularly large puddle. Victoria, are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I want this to be more than friendship. I'm saying you and Emma have become incredibly important to me in a very short time, and it terrifies me. I'm saying I'm 47 years old, and I should know better, but I can't seem to make myself care. Look at me. She did. His eyes were impossibly warm, impossibly kind. I don't care about the age difference. I don't care that you work 100 hours a week. I don't care that this might be complicated or difficult or unconventional. What I care about is that when I'm with you, I feel like myself again. Not just Emma's dad or the widower or the guy barely getting by, just Ryan. And I think maybe you feel the same way, like you can just be Victoria. I do. Then let's stop talking about all the reasons this shouldn't work and just see if it does. He stepped closer, and Victoria's breath caught. This was it. The moment that would change everything. The moment she could still walk away from if she wanted to protect herself. But she didn't want to protect herself anymore. She wanted this. Wanted him. Ryan cupped her face gently, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. She leaned in instead, and when his lips met hers, it felt like coming home. The kiss was soft, careful, perfect. It tasted like rain and possibility and the courage to try something new.
When they pulled apart, Emma was standing 5 feet away, grinning. "Does this mean Miss Victoria is your girlfriend now, Daddy?" Ryan laughed, keeping his eyes on Victoria. "I don't know. Miss Victoria, would you like to be my girlfriend?" It was absurd. She was 47 years old, a senior partner at a prestigious law firm. She hadn't been anyone's girlfriend in decades. "Yes," she said. "I would." Emma cheered and ran back to splash in puddles, satisfied with this development.
Ryan took Victoria's hand, lacing their fingers together. "Fair warning, I have no idea what I'm doing. I haven't dated anyone since Sarah died. I'm probably going to mess this up. I haven't dated anyone in 8 years, and I was terrible at it then. We'll mess it up together." They walked hand in hand through the rain, and Victoria felt lighter than she had in years. Yes, there would be challenges. Yes, people would judge. Yes, balancing their different lives would be complicated. But right now, walking through a rainy park with a man who made her laugh and a little girl who'd stolen her heart, none of that seemed to matter. What mattered was that she'd said yes, that she'd chosen hope over fear, that she was willing to try. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The first real test came sooner than either of them expected. Victoria's phone buzzed during dinner Tuesday night. A rare evening she'd managed to carve out to cook something other than takeout. She glanced at the screen and saw Ryan's name, accompanied by a photo Emma had taken of him making a ridiculous face. Despite the mountain of case files waiting on her dining table, she smiled. "Hey," she answered, balancing the phone against her shoulder while stirring pasta sauce. "Hey, bad time?" Ryan's voice carried an edge of tension she hadn't heard before. "Never. What's wrong?" Emma's school is having a parent-teacher conference Thursday at 4. It's the only slot they had available, and my boss just told me I can't leave the site early. We're behind schedule on a commercial project downtown. I know it's last minute, but is there any chance you could go? I wouldn't ask, but Emma's been talking about wanting you to meet her teacher, and I don't want to disappoint her by missing it entirely. Victoria pulled up her calendar mentally. She had a deposition scheduled for 3:30 that could run long, followed by a strategy meeting with her partners at 5. Threading a school conference into that window would be tight, possibly impossible. "Please don't feel obligated," Ryan continued quickly. "I can try to reschedule, or I'll just explain to Emma that I'll be there." The words came out before she'd fully thought them through, but she didn't regret them. "Text me the school address and the teacher's name." "Are you sure? I know how busy you are." "Ryan, if Emma wants me there, I'm there." The relief in his voice was palpable. "Thank you. Really. She's going to be so excited." After hanging up, Victoria stared at her calendar and began the complex negotiation of rearranging her entire Thursday. Her assistant Jennifer was going to have strong opinions about this, but Victoria didn't care. Somewhere between Park Saturdays and rain-soaked kisses, Emma Cole had become someone Victoria would rearrange her life for. Thursday afternoon found Victoria walking through the halls of Riverside Elementary, her heels clicking against linoleum floors covered in student artwork and motivational posters. The building smelled like crayons and floor cleaner and something baking in the cafeteria, scents that were completely foreign to her usual world of leather-bound law books and expensive coffee. She found Emma waiting outside her classroom, practically vibrating with excitement in her school uniform. "Miss Victoria, you came!" Emma launched herself forward for a hug that Victoria was getting better at receiving. "Of course I came. You think I'd miss meeting the famous Ms. Chen? She's really nice. She's my favorite teacher ever." Emma grabbed Victoria's hand, tugging her toward the classroom door. "Come on, she's waiting." Ms. Chen was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an easy smile. She stood as they entered, extending her hand. "You must be Victoria. Emma talks about you constantly." "Does she?" Victoria glanced down at Emma, who was beaming. "Oh, yes. Miss Victoria took me to the art museum. Miss Victoria knows about contracts and law. Miss Victoria is really smart and really pretty." Ms. Chen's eyes twinkled with amusement. "It's lovely to finally meet the woman who's made such an impression." They sat at a table sized for 6-year-olds, Victoria's knees nearly hitting her chin, while Ms. Chen pulled out Emma's portfolio of work. "Emma is an exceptional student," Ms. Chen began. "Her reading comprehension is above grade level. Her math skills are strong, and she's incredibly creative. But what really stands out is her emotional intelligence. She's kind to everyone, she helps other students without being asked, and she has a remarkable ability to understand different perspectives. She gets that from her father, Victoria said quietly. I'm sure. But she also clearly has strong role models in her life now. Ms. Chen's gaze was knowing but not judgmental. Emma wrote a story last week about a girl who wants to be a lawyer when she grows up. She said lawyers help people who can't help themselves, and that's the most important job in the world. Victoria felt something crack open in her chest. May I see it? Ms. Chen handed her a carefully illustrated booklet. Emma's handwriting was still forming, letters wobbling across the page, but the story was clear. A girl named Ella helped people by learning all the rules and making sure everyone was treated fairly. The final illustration showed Ella in a courthouse, wearing what was unmistakably a version of Victoria's charcoal suit. This is remarkable, Emma, Victoria managed, her voice slightly rough. Emma leaned against her shoulder. I want to be like you when I grow up. Victoria had to take a moment before she could respond. In her entire career, she'd won cases that set precedents, negotiated settlements that changed corporate policies, mentored young attorneys who'd gone on to do great things, but nothing had ever meant as much as this. A 6-year-old's crayon drawing and the simple statement that Victoria was worth emulating. You can be anything you want to be, Victoria said finally, and you'll be extraordinary at it. The conference continued with Miss Chen discussing Emma's social development, her participation in class, areas where she could be challenged more. Victoria took mental notes, asked questions, engaged fully in a way that felt both foreign and completely natural. When they finished, Emma insisted on giving Victoria a tour of the classroom, showing her the reading corner, the art supplies, the class pet, a sleepy hamster named Professor Whiskers. Victoria found herself genuinely interested, asking questions about the daily routine, the projects they were working on, what Emma liked best about school. Thank you for coming, Emma said as they walked to the parking lot. Daddy's going to be sad he missed it, but I'm really happy you were here. So am I, sweetheart. Can you come to my school concert next month? We're singing songs, and I have a solo part. Victoria thought about her calendar, already packed with depositions and court dates and client meetings. Then she looked at Emma's hopeful face and found her answer came easily. I'll be there, front row. Emma hugged her tightly before running to where her after-school babysitter was waiting. Victoria watched her go, then sat in her car for a long moment, staring at the illustrated story Emma had made. A girl who wanted to be a lawyer. A girl who thought helping people was the most important job in the world. A girl who saw Victoria as someone worth becoming. She called Ryan on the drive back to her office. How did it go? He answered immediately, anxiety threading through his voice. She's brilliant. Ms. Chen says she's reading at a 3rd grade level and her emotional intelligence is off the charts. That's my girl. Pride saturated every word. Did she behave herself? Perfectly. She gave me a complete tour of her classroom and introduced me to Professor Whiskers. Ryan laughed. The hamster, she's obsessed with that thing. Ryan, she wrote a story about wanting to be a lawyer. Victoria's voice softened. She drew a picture of herself in a courthouse, helping people. Silence stretched for several seconds. When Ryan spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. She really looks up to you. I hope you know that. I'm starting to. Thank you for going. I know it complicated your day. It was the best part of my day. More silence, comfortable this time. Then Ryan said, Have dinner with us tonight? Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and whatever vegetables I can convince Emma to eat. But I'd really like to see you. We both would. Victoria glanced at the case files waiting in her office, the emails piling up, the strategy meeting she'd already rescheduled twice. Then she thought about Emma's story and the way Ryan's voice had sounded when he said, We both would. I'll be there in an hour. Dinner at Ryan's apartment was chaotic and wonderful. Emma insisted on helping cook, which resulted in sauce splattered on the counters and noodles on the floor. Ryan navigated it all with practiced patience, making space for Victoria to help while keeping Emma from complete disaster. Careful with the... Ryan started as Emma reached for the cheese grater. I've got it, Victoria intercepted smoothly, showing Emma how to grate cheese safely. Small movements, fingers away from the sharp part. Ryan caught her eye across the kitchen, mouthing "thank you" with a smile that made her heart skip. They ate at a small table covered in Emma's artwork, drinking water from mismatched glasses because Emma had broken one of the set last week. The spaghetti was slightly overcooked and the salad was mostly croutons because that was all Emma would accept, but Victoria couldn't remember enjoying a meal more. "Miss Victoria, do you have any kids?" Emma asked suddenly, in that way children had of asking profoundly personal questions over dinner. Victoria saw Ryan tense, ready to redirect, but she shook her head slightly at him. "No, I don't." "Why not?" "I was married once, a long time ago, but we decided not to have children. And then we got divorced, and I focused on my career instead." Emma considered this seriously. "Do you wish you had kids?" It was a question Victoria had avoided examining for years. She told herself she'd chosen her path deliberately, that she didn't want the complications of children, that her work was enough. "I used to think I didn't want them," Victoria said slowly, honestly. "But lately I've been wondering if maybe I just never met the right people to have them with." Emma seemed satisfied with this answer. "Well, you have me now, kind of, if you want." Victoria felt her throat tighten. "I would like that very much." "Good, because I like you better than Daddy's last girlfriend." "Emma," Ryan's face went red. "We talked about this." "What?" "It's true. She was boring, and she didn't like Professor Whiskers." Victoria couldn't help laughing. "Well, I'm definitely pro-Professor Whiskers, so I think I'm already ahead." After dinner, Emma begged to show Victoria her room. It was exactly what Victoria expected. Books scattered across every surface, drawings taped to the walls, stuffed animals arranged in what Emma explained was very particular order. But what caught Victoria's attention was the small bulletin board above Emma's desk, covered in photos. There were pictures of Emma and Ryan at the park, at the beach, making silly faces, pictures of Emma with school friends. A few older photos of a beautiful woman with Emma's eyes. Sarah, Victoria realized, Emma's mother. And there, pinned in the corner, was a photo Victoria didn't remember being taken. Her and Emma at the art museum last week, both of them laughing at something, Emma's hand in hers. "Daddy took that one," Emma said, following her gaze. "He said you look happy." "I was happy. I am happy." "Good." Emma yawned hugely. "Will you read me a story before bed?" Victoria glanced at Ryan, who stood in the doorway, watching them with an expression she couldn't quite name. "If it's okay with your dad." "More than okay," Ryan said softly. So Victoria found herself sitting on Emma's bed, reading from a well-worn copy of a book about a brave girl who built a rocket ship. Emma curled against her side, smelling like strawberry shampoo in childhood, growing heavier as sleep overtook her. By the time Victoria finished the story, Emma was fully asleep. Victoria carefully extracted herself, tucking the blanket around Emma's shoulders the way she'd seen Ryan do. She found him in the kitchen, washing dishes with focused attention. "You didn't have to do that," Ryan said without turning around. "Read to her, I mean, though I'm glad you did. She loved it." "So did I." Victoria picked up a dish towel and began drying. "Ryan, can I ask you something?" "Always." Emma asked if I wished I'd had children, and I realized that for most of my life I convinced myself I didn't want them because I was afraid. Afraid I wouldn't be good enough, afraid I'd fail, afraid I'd choose wrong and regret it. Ryan turned off the water, giving her his full attention. "But being with you two, seeing how you are with her, how she is with the world, it's making me rethink everything I thought I knew about myself. And that's terrifying." "Oh, why terrifying?" "Because I'm 47 years old, Ryan. My life is exactly what I built it to be. Successful career, nice apartment, complete control over every aspect of my existence. And then you and Emma walked into it and suddenly none of that feels like enough anymore." Ryan dried his hand slowly, then stepped closer. "Is that a bad thing?" "I don't know. I've never let myself want something I couldn't plan for, couldn't control the outcome of. But I want this. I want you. I want to be part of Emma's life. And I have no idea how to make that work with the reality of who I am and who you both need me to be." "Victoria, look at me." Ryan cupped her face gently, the gesture already familiar, already home. "Emma doesn't need you to be anything except yourself. She likes that you're smart and successful and passionate about your work. She likes that you take her seriously and answer her questions honestly. She likes that you show up when you say you will,
and that you genuinely seem to enjoy spending time with her. And what about you? What do you need? I need you to be honest with me. I need you to tell me when things are too much or when you need space. I need you to trust that I understand your career is important and I'm not going to resent you for working hard. He paused. And I need you to believe that you're enough, exactly as you are. Victoria kissed him then, pouring all her uncertainty and hope and desperate wanting into it. Ryan pulled her closer, his hand spanning her back, his mouth warm and sure against hers. When they finally broke apart, breathless, Ryan rested his forehead against hers. Stay tonight, he whispered. Nothing has to happen. Just stay. Victoria thought about her empty apartment, her perfectly made bed, the case files that would still be there in the morning. Then she thought about waking up here, in this warm, chaotic space that smelled like pasta sauce and childhood and possibility. Okay. They talked until nearly midnight, curled together on Ryan's worn couch. He told her about Sarah, about those last terrible months and the overwhelming grief that followed, about learning to be both mother and father to a 3-year-old while barely holding himself together. There were days I didn't think I'd make it, he admitted. Days when Emma would ask for her mama, and I had no comfort to give because I was drowning in the same loss. But then she'd do something, laugh at a cartoon or show me a flower or just curl up next to me, and I'd remember that I had to keep going. For her. You're an incredible father. I'm a father who's trying his best and hoping it's enough. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. What about you? Tell me about your marriage. Victoria stiffened instinctively, then forced herself to relax. If she was asking him to trust her with his grief, she owed him the same. His name was David. We met in law school, married right after graduation. We were the perfect power couple on paper, both ambitious, both driven, both completely committed to our careers. She paused, remembering. But that was the problem. We were committed to our careers, not to each other. We were roommates who occasionally had sex and attended the same networking events. No real intimacy, no genuine connection. After 8 years, we finally admitted we'd built a partnership, not a marriage. Did you love him? I thought I did. But looking back, I think I loved the idea of him. The perfect successful husband to complete the perfect successful life I'd planned. She turned to look at Ryan fully. I've never felt with anyone what I feel with you. This sense of being seen, really seen, and liked anyway. Maybe even because of my flaws, not despite them. Your flaws are my favorite parts. I'm too controlling. You're organized and you care about doing things right. I work too much. You're passionate about your career. Emma thinks that's admirable. I don't know how to be spontaneous. And yet here you are, staying over on a weeknight with no plan and no change of clothes. Victoria laughed despite herself. This is terrifying. I know, but maybe that's how you know it's real. They fell asleep on the couch, tangled together, and when Victoria woke at dawn to Emma's face, inches from hers, she didn't panic. She just smiled at those curious hazel eyes and whispered, "Good morning, sweetheart." "Are you staying for breakfast?" Emma whispered back as if this was the most natural question in the world. "If your dad's making pancakes, absolutely." Emma's grin was brilliant. "Daddy, Miss Victoria wants pancakes." Ryan appeared in the doorway, rumpled and sleepy and impossibly attractive. "Does Miss Victoria know that my pancakes are famously terrible?" "I'll take my chances." The pancakes were indeed terrible. Burnt on the outside, gooey in the middle, but Victoria ate every bite. And when she finally left for work 2 hours late, still wearing yesterday's clothes, her hair pulled back with one of Emma's hair ties, she felt lighter than she had in years. The next few weeks fell into an unexpected rhythm. Victoria would work brutal hours during the week, but she carved out time for dinner with Ryan and Emma at least twice. Saturdays remained sacred, their park time, their family time, though none of them spoke that word aloud yet. Victoria found herself keeping children's books in her car, emergency hair ties in her purse, granola bars Emma liked in her office drawer. She learned which vegetables Emma would eat and which were non-negotiable. She figured out how to braid hair after 3 terrible attempts and 1 YouTube tutorial. She started thinking in terms of we instead of I. And slowly, carefully, she let herself believe this could be real. But reality had a way of testing even the strongest foundations, and theirs was still new, still fragile.
The first crack appeared on a Wednesday evening when Victoria met Ryan for dinner at a restaurant near her office. She'd had a brutal day in court. The opposing counsel had been particularly aggressive, and she'd won her motion but felt drained rather than triumphant. Ryan took one look at her face and ordered wine before she'd even sat down. "That bad?" he asked gently. "I'm just tired. It's fine." "Victoria," she sighed, accepting the wine glass gratefully. "There's a partner track vote coming up next month. I've been working toward this for 5 years. But there's another attorney, Marcus Chen, who wants the same position. He's brilliant, ruthless, and willing to work 100 hours a week because he has a wife who handles everything else in his life. And you're worried you can't compete with that. I'm worried that choosing to have a personal life will cost me professionally, that every dinner I leave early for, every Saturday I take off, every moment I'm not available will be used against me." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "Do you regret this? Us?" "No, never." Victoria reached across the table to take his hand. "But I'm scared that I'm going to have to choose between you and my career, and I don't know how to do that." "Then don't choose. Figure out how to have both. It's not that simple. Isn't it? You're brilliant, Victoria. You work harder than anyone I've ever met. If you want that partnership, you'll get it. And if you want us too, we'll make that work." "You make it sound easy." "I didn't say it was easy. I said it was possible. There's a difference." Victoria wanted to believe him, but she'd spent her entire career watching women try to have it all and fail, watching the ones who succeeded sacrifice everything personal for professional achievement. She didn't know how to be different. "What if I can't do both? What if I'm not enough?" "Then we'll figure it out together. But Victoria, you need to stop assuming you're going to fail before you even try." His words stayed with her through the following weeks as the partnership vote loomed closer. She worked longer hours, took on additional cases, made herself indispensable. But she also made Emma's school concert, showed up for Saturday park days, answered Ryan's texts even when she was drowning in work. It was exhausting. It was overwhelming. It was barely sustainable. But when Emma performed her solo at the concert, found Victoria in the audience, and sang directly to her with a gap-toothed smile, Victoria knew she'd made the right choice, even if it cost her everything else. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, elegant script on thick cream cardstock. Victoria stared at it for a long moment before calling Ryan. "Are you sitting down?" she asked when he answered. "Should I be?" "My ex-husband is getting remarried. I've been invited to the wedding." "Okay." Ryan's voice was carefully neutral. "Are you going?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to decline and avoid the whole thing. But David and I ended things amicably, and his fiancée Caroline is actually lovely. We've had lunch a few times over the years. It feels petty not to go." "Then go." "The invitation says, 'and guest.'" Victoria paused. "I'd like you to come with me." The silence stretched long enough that Victoria started to worry. Then Ryan said, "You want me to meet your ex-husband at his wedding?" "I want you with me at a major social event where I'll know everyone and they'll all be curious about my personal life. I want to introduce you as my partner. And yes, that includes meeting David, but honestly, he's not the complicated part." "What's the complicated part?" "Everyone else. The legal community gossip mill. The questions about our age difference. The judgment. The assumptions." Victoria took a breath. "Ryan, this won't be easy. People are going to talk. Some of them won't be kind." "Do you care what they think?" "I care what you think. I care about Emma. Everything else is just noise." "Then I'll be there." "When is it?" 3 weeks. Black tie." Ryan laughed. "I'll need to rent a tux." "I'll help you pick one out." "Victoria?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for asking me, for wanting me there. Where else would you be?" After they hung up, Victoria stared at the invitation for a long time. She was 47 years old, a senior attorney at a prestigious firm, and she was bringing a 29-year-old construction supervisor to her ex-husband's wedding. People were definitely going to talk. But as she thought about Ryan's steady presence, his quiet confidence, the way he made her feel like the best version of herself, she found she didn't care. Let them talk. She'd finally found something worth defending. The 3 weeks before the wedding passed in a blur of preparation and mounting anxiety. Victoria threw herself into work with renewed intensity, aware that every hour spent with Ryan was an hour Marcus Chen could use to edge ahead in the partnership race. But she also couldn't bring herself to cancel their standing Saturday mornings or the dinners that had become essential to her week. She was standing in front of her closet the night before the wedding, staring at 3 different dresses she'd laid out on her bed, when her phone rang. Ryan's name lit up the screen. "I'm having a crisis," she announced instead of hello. "About the wedding?" "About everything, the dress, the partnership vote, whether bringing you is the right decision." "Victoria, breathe." She sat on the edge of her bed, closing her eyes. "I'm terrified, not of the wedding itself, but of what it represents. Walking into that room with you means making a public statement about us. Once I do that, there's no taking it back." "Do you want to take it back?" "No, but I'm scared of what it might cost." Ryan was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was gentle but firm. "I've been thinking about what you said about the partnership, about choosing between your career and us. And I realized something. You're not choosing between your career and me. You're choosing between being who everyone expects you to be and being who you actually are. That's not fair. You make it sound simple." "I'm not trying to be fair. I'm trying to be honest." She heard him shift, could picture him in his small living room, probably watching Emma sleep through the bedroom doorway. "You've spent your whole life building this perfect professional image. The brilliant attorney who sacrifices everything for success. And it's real. You are brilliant. You do work harder than anyone. But you're also someone who reads bedtime stories to a 6-year-old and ugly cries at animated movies and makes terrible pancakes on Sunday mornings. I've made pancakes exactly twice. And they were terrible both times. My point is, you're a whole person, Victoria, not just a lawyer. And if that partnership requires you to pretend otherwise, maybe it's not worth having." Victoria pressed her hand to her chest, feeling something crack open there. "When did you get so wise?" "I've been taking notes from this incredibly smart woman I'm dating." She laughed despite the tears threatening to spill. "I love you." The words escaped before she could stop them, hanging in the air between them like a confession. The silence stretched so long Victoria's heart started to pound. Then Ryan said, voice rough with emotion, "Say that again." "I love you. I didn't mean to say it like this over the phone the night before a wedding, but I do. I love you, Ryan." "I love you too. I have for weeks, but I was waiting for you to catch up." She could hear the smile in his voice. "Now wear the blue dress tomorrow, the one that makes your eyes look impossibly dark, and stop overthinking everything." "How do you know which dress is blue? You haven't seen any of them." "Because I know you. You're going to pick the most conservative option that lets you hide. But tomorrow's not about hiding. It's about showing everyone exactly who you are." After they hung up, Victoria stared at the blue dress he'd somehow known she'd chosen. Elegant, understated, safe. Then she looked at the other option she'd been afraid to wear. Emerald green, fitted, beautiful. The kind of dress that demanded attention rather than deflecting it. She hung the blue dress back in the closet and laid out the green one instead. The wedding was held at the Meridian Estate, a sprawling property overlooking the river with manicured gardens and a ballroom that probably cost more than Victoria's annual salary to rent. She arrived early, partly to help Caroline if needed, and partly to establish her presence before the crowd arrived. Caroline found her in the bride's suite, surrounded by flowers and champagne and nervous bridesmaids. "Victoria, thank you for coming." Caroline embraced her warmly. She was a lovely woman in her early 40s, kind-faced and genuinely happy in a way Victoria had never managed to be during her own marriage. "David will be thrilled you're here. I wouldn't have missed it. You look absolutely radiant." "I'm completely terrified, but in the best way possible." Caroline's smile was infectious. "David mentioned you're bringing someone?" "I am. His name is Ryan. We've been seeing each other for a few months now." "That's wonderful. I can't wait to meet him." There was no judgment in Caroline's voice, just genuine warmth. "David said you seemed happy lately. I'm glad." Victoria helped Caroline with last-minute details, pinning an errant curl and making sure the flower girl knew her cues. It was strange being in this position, helping her ex-husband's new bride prepare for marriage, but it also felt right. David deserved happiness, and so did Caroline. Their ending had made space for better beginnings. She was touching up her lipstick in the powder room when her phone buzzed. Ryan had texted a photo of himself in the rented tuxedo, Emma photobombing in the background, making silly faces. "How do I look?" the text read. Victoria's breath caught. He looked devastating. The formal wear somehow made him appear older, more sophisticated, but his smile was still pure Ryan, warm, genuine, slightly uncertain. Like you're going to break every heart in the room, she typed back. Are you close? 10 minutes away. Emma made me promise to tell you she loves your dress, even though she hasn't seen it yet. Tell her I love her. I will. See you soon. Victoria stared at her reflection, barely recognizing the woman looking back. When had she started glowing like this? When had the hard edges softened? When had she begun looking like someone who had something worth losing? The ceremony was beautiful. Traditional vows spoken with genuine emotion, David's voice breaking slightly when he said, I do. Caroline's tears of joy. Victoria found herself genuinely happy for them, free of any residual bitterness or regret. That chapter of her life had closed completely, making room for something new. Ryan arrived just as the ceremony concluded, slipping into the back row with apologetic quietness. Emma wasn't with him. She was spending the evening with her regular babysitter, deemed too young for an adult formal event. Victoria caught his eye across the crowded garden and felt her heart skip at the look on his face. Pure appreciation, pure want, pure love. The cocktail hour brought the inevitable gauntlet. Victoria had barely taken 2 steps into the reception space when Amanda Pierce, a fellow attorney and notorious gossip, materialized at her elbow. Victoria, you look stunning. That dress is absolutely perfect on you. Amanda's eyes scanned the room, clearly searching. I heard you were bringing someone. Anyone I know? I doubt it. He's not in the legal field. Oh? What does he do? Before Victoria could answer, Ryan appeared beside her, carrying 2 glasses of champagne. He handed one to Victoria, his fingers brushing hers deliberately, then extended his other hand to Amanda. Ryan Cole, pleasure to meet you. Amanda's eyes widened slightly as she took in his age, his build, the confident way he stood beside Victoria. Amanda Pierce, I work with Victoria at Morrison & Hale. Victoria's mentioned you. Ryan's smile was polite but revealed nothing. She said you're brilliant in corporate litigation. Amanda preened slightly. Well, I do my best. And what is it you do, Ryan? I'm a construction supervisor. Commercial projects, mostly. He said it with zero apology, zero defensiveness. Just fact. Victoria watched Amanda's expression shift, surprise, calculation, barely concealed judgment. This was the moment. The first test of many. How interesting, Amanda said in a tone that meant the opposite. And how did you 2 meet? Ryan was a client, Victoria said smoothly. A tenant protection case. We won, and then we became friends. And then more than friends. A client. How unconventional. Amanda's smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, I should mingle. Lovely to meet you, Ryan. As she walked away, Victoria could practically see the gossip spreading in real time. Within minutes, curious glances were being thrown their way from all corners of the room. That went well, Ryan said dryly. That was just the opening salvo. It gets worse from here. Bring it on. I've handled worse than judgmental lawyers. Like what? Like explaining to Emma why the neighbor's kid said her dad was dating someone old enough to be his mom. Victoria's stomach dropped. Emma heard that? Last week at the playground. She came home crying, asking if you were going to die soon because you're so old. Ryan's jaw tightened at the memory. I explained that you're not old, that age is just a number, and that what matters is how we feel about each other. She understood, but it still hurt her. I'm so sorry. I never wanted her to deal with that. Victoria, kids are cruel. It's not your fault. He took her hand, squeezing gently. Besides, Emma's response was perfect. She told the kid that you're the smartest, prettiest, nicest person she knows, and if he couldn't see that, he was stupid. Despite everything, Victoria laughed. She said that? Yelled it, actually, got herself a timeout for the language, but she was very proud of herself. Ryan's expression softened. She loves you. She doesn't care what anyone else thinks. I love her too, both of you. The dinner seating placed them at a table with several of David's colleagues and their spouses. Victoria made introductions, watched the familiar pattern of surprise and speculation cross each face, but Ryan handled it with remarkable grace, asking intelligent questions about their work, sharing stories from his construction projects, finding common ground with people who initially viewed him with skepticism. By the main course, He had the entire table laughing at a story about a structural engineer who designed a building without accounting for the weight of the furniture. "So we're 3 weeks from deadline," Ryan was saying, "and the engineer is insisting his calculations are perfect, while the entire floor is literally sagging. Finally, the architect calls in an independent consultant who takes one look and says, 'Did you forget that people are going to, use this building?'" The table erupted in laughter. David, who'd stopped by to greet them, grinned at Victoria over Ryan's head. "Can I steal Victoria for a moment?" David asked. "Just to say hello properly?" "Of course." Ryan squeezed her hand under the table, a silent message of support. Victoria followed David to a quieter corner of the ballroom, suddenly nervous despite their years of friendly distance. "You look happy," David said simply. "Really, genuinely happy in a way I don't think I ever saw when we were married." "I am. Probably happier than I have any right to be." "That's nonsense. You deserve happiness, Victoria. We both do." He glanced across the room to where Caroline was laughing with her bridesmaids. "I'm glad we can both be here, in this moment, celebrating new beginnings. Even though mine apparently involves dating someone young enough to cause gossip." David laughed. "Especially that. Do you know how boring our social circle is? You're giving them something to talk about for months." He sobered slightly. "But seriously, he seems like a good man. And the way he looks at you, like you hung the moon. That's worth any amount of gossip." "Thank you, David. That means a lot. Caroline and I want to have you both over for dinner sometime. Get to know Ryan properly, without all this wedding chaos." "I'd like that." They hugged, a genuine embrace between two people who'd once loved each other and now loved other people better. Then Victoria returned to the table, to Ryan, to the life she was building instead of the one she'd left behind. The real test came during the dancing. The band was playing something slow and romantic, and couples filled the floor. Ryan stood, extending his hand. "Dance with me?" Victoria's heart raced. Dancing meant being on display, meant every eye in the room watching them together, meant making their relationship undeniably public. "Yes." His hand was warm and steady as he led her to the floor. He pulled her close, one hand at her waist, the other cradling hers against his chest. They moved together with surprising ease, as if they'd been dancing together for years instead of for the first time. "You're tense," Ryan murmured against her ear. "Everyone's watching. Let them watch. I only care about you." Victoria made herself relax, made herself focus on the feel of his body against hers, the warmth of his breath, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Around them, she could feel the weight of curious stares, could imagine the whispered conversations. But Ryan was right. It didn't matter. Not really. "I meant what I said last night," she whispered. "I love you. I know. I can feel it every time you look at me." He pulled back slightly to meet her eyes. "I love you too. And I'm proud to be here with you, showing everyone exactly how I feel." They swayed together, lost in their own world, until the song ended and another began. Victoria expected Ryan to lead her off the floor, but instead he kept dancing, pulling her even closer. "One more," he said, "just one more." So they danced through another song and another, until Victoria forgot to be self-conscious, forgot to worry about judgment, forgot everything except the man in her arms and the way he made her feel, cherished, desired, enough. When they finally left the dance floor, Victoria felt lighter. She'd survived the gauntlet. More than survived. She'd claimed her happiness publicly, without apology. But the evening had one more challenge waiting. Victoria was touching up her makeup in the restroom when she overheard two women at the sinks, their voices carrying clearly. "Did you see Victoria Hale's date? He can't be more than 30. 29, I heard. Can you imagine? She's old enough to be his mother." "It's embarrassing. What does a man like that see in a woman her age besides money and connections?" "Probably exactly that. He's a construction worker dating a senior attorney. It's transparently opportunistic." Victoria's hand froze on her lipstick. She should leave, should ignore them, should maintain her dignity. But anger rose sharp and fierce. She stepped out of the stall, meeting both women's shocked gazes in the mirror. "You're right," she said coolly. "Ryan is 29. I'm 47. And your math is terrible. I'd have to have given birth at 18 to be old enough to be his mother, which I'm not." She set down her lipstick with deliberate care. "But since we're sharing opinions, let me offer mine. Ryan Cole is one of the most genuinely good men I've ever met. He's kind, intelligent, hardworking, and devoted to his daughter. He makes me laugh, challenges me to be better, and loves me for exactly who I am. If that's opportunistic, then I hope everyone finds someone equally opportunistic. She walked out without waiting for a response, her hand shaking slightly, but her head held high. Ryan was waiting in the hallway, leaning against the wall with a slight smile. "How much did you hear?" she asked. "Enough to know you just defended our relationship like you were arguing before the Supreme Court. They called you opportunistic. I've been called worse." He pushed off the wall, cupping her face gently. "Victoria, I don't care what they think. I care what you think, and I care that you're willing to stand up for us. Always." She kissed him fiercely, not caring who might see. "I will always stand up for us." The evening wound down with champagne toasts and cake cutting and the inevitable bouquet toss. Victoria declined to participate in that particular tradition, but she stood on the sidelines with Ryan, his arm around her waist, feeling completely content. As the bride and groom made their departure through a shower of sparklers, Caroline paused to hug Victoria one more time. "I'm so glad you came, and I'm so glad you brought Ryan." She lowered her voice. "Don't let anyone make you doubt what you have. Love that makes you glow like this is worth fighting for." Driving home, Victoria expected to feel exhausted, wrung out from the emotional gauntlet. Instead, she felt energized, powerful, certain. "Thank you for tonight," she said, reaching for Ryan's hand across the console. "For what?" "For being exactly who you are. For not trying to be someone you're not to fit into my world. For making me feel like I can be myself too. You should always be yourself. That's who I fell in love with." They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the city lights blurring past. Then Victoria said, "I need to tell you something about the partnership vote." Ryan's hand tightened on hers. "Okay. It's happening next week, and I've decided that if they have any concerns about my personal life affecting my professional commitment, I'm going to address them directly. No hiding, no apologizing, just honesty. And if they say you have to choose, then I choose you and Emma, and a life that's actually worth living instead of one that just looks good on paper." Ryan pulled the car over suddenly, parking in an empty lot overlooking the river. He turned to face her fully, his expression intense. "Victoria, I need you to understand something. I would never, ever ask you to give up your career for me. I know how hard you've worked, how much it means to you. If this partnership requires you to pull back from us for a while, we'll figure it out. Emma and I aren't going anywhere." "I know, but I've realized something these past few months. That partnership? I wanted it because it was the next logical step, because it was what success looked like, because I'd been working toward it so long I forgot to ask if I actually wanted it." She took his hand, pressing it against her cheek. "But you and Emma? I want you because you make my life better, because you've shown me what it feels like to be loved, not for what I achieve, but for who I am. And if I have to choose, there's no contest." "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Ryan kissed her then, tender and deep, and Victoria felt the last pieces of her old life fall away. She wasn't becoming someone new, she was finally becoming fully herself. The version of herself that could be both a brilliant attorney and a woman in love. Both ambitious and vulnerable, both strong and soft. When they finally pulled apart, Ryan was smiling. "So what now?" "Now I go to that partnership meeting next week and I tell them exactly who I am, a damn good lawyer who also happens to be building a life outside the office. And if they can't handle that, then they're not the firm I want to be a partner in anyway. That's my girl." They sat together watching the river flow past, the city lights reflecting on the water, both of them quiet with the knowledge that they'd crossed some invisible threshold. The wedding had been their public declaration, but this moment, this quiet certainty that they were choosing each other regardless of cost, this was their private promise. Victoria's phone buzzed with a text from Emma, sent via the babysitter's phone. It was a photo of a drawing showing 3 stick figures holding hands, with the words, "My family," written in careful block letters across the top. "She made you part of the family," Ryan said softly, looking at the picture over her shoulder. "Is that okay with you?" "Victoria, that's all I want. For you to be part of our family. If you're ready for that." Victoria looked at the drawing again. at the three figures that represented a future she'd never imagined wanting and now couldn't imagine living without. She thought about Emma's gap-toothed smile and her endless questions and the way she'd started calling Victoria Miss V as a nickname. She thought about Ryan's steady presence and his terrible pancakes, and the way he made her laugh even during the hardest days. She thought about the partnership and the career she'd built, and all the things she'd thought defined success. And she realized that success had been redefined somewhere along the way when she wasn't paying attention. "I'm ready," she said. "I'm absolutely ready." They drove to Ryan's apartment to relieve the babysitter. Emma was already asleep, but Victoria tiptoed into her room anyway, tucking the blanket more securely around her shoulders and pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Good night, sweetheart," she whispered. "I love you." Emma stirred slightly, mumbling something incoherent, then settled back into sleep with a small smile. Ryan was waiting in the hallway when Victoria emerged, his expression unreadable. "What?" she asked. "Nothing, just watching you with her. It's everything I didn't know I needed." "She's everything I didn't know I wanted. Stay tonight? I was hoping you'd ask." They fell asleep tangled together in Ryan's bed, and when Victoria woke in the pre-dawn darkness, she didn't panic about the work waiting or the partnership vote looming or any of the 100 complications that had defined her life before. Instead, she pulled Ryan closer, listened to his steady breathing, and let herself be content. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The partnership vote, the inevitable gossip from the wedding, the ongoing navigation of blending their complicated lives. But tonight, she had this perfect, imperfect moment of peace. And for the first time in her carefully controlled life, Victoria Hale decided that was more than enough. The partnership meeting was scheduled for Thursday at 9 in the morning, which gave Victoria exactly 5 days to prepare her defense. She spent Monday morning reviewing every case she'd closed in the past year, every client satisfaction survey, every billable hour logged. The numbers were irrefutable. She'd brought in more revenue than any other senior attorney, won cases others had deemed impossible, and maintained a perfect record of client retention. But numbers weren't the issue, and she knew it. Tuesday afternoon, Jennifer knocked on her office door with an expression Victoria had learned to recognize as harbinger of bad news. "Marcus Chen just filed the Brennan Industries case," Jennifer said quietly. "The one you were consulting on." Victoria's stomach dropped. The Brennan case was a massive corporate fraud lawsuit, the kind of case that could define a career. She'd been brought in as a consultant 3 months ago, had done preliminary research and strategy development, but Marcus had apparently convinced the client to make him lead counsel. When did this happen? Last week, apparently. The client called this morning to formally notify us of the change. Victoria pulled up her email, scrolling through until she found the message buried among 100 others. Professional language, corporate politeness. But the message was clear. Brennan Industries had chosen Marcus Chen to represent them in what would likely be the highest profile case of the year. She called the client contact immediately, a woman named Patricia, whom she'd worked with for years. "Patricia, it's Victoria Hale. I just saw the notification about the Brennan case. Can you help me understand what happened?" Patricia's sigh was audible. "Victoria, you know I have tremendous respect for you. Your preliminary work was excellent, as always. But when we met with Marcus last week, he was able to guarantee complete availability for the next year. No conflicts, no divided attention. He made it clear this case would be his sole focus. And I couldn't make that guarantee." "Can you?" Victoria thought about Saturday mornings at the park, about Emma's school events, about the promise she'd made to Ryan that their relationship mattered as much as her career. She thought about the partnership vote and what conceding this case would signal to the other partners. "I can give this case everything it needs," Victoria said carefully. "My track record speaks to that." "Your track record is impeccable, but Victoria, we need someone who can drop everything when depositions run late, who can fly to Chicago at 6 hours' notice, who can work weekends without hesitation. Marcus assured us he has no personal commitments that would interfere." The implication hung heavy between them. Marcus had weaponized her personal life, turned her relationship with Ryan into a professional liability. "I see," Victoria said, her voice cool and professional despite the anger burning through her. "Thank you for the clarification, Patricia." After hanging up, Victoria sat in her office for a long moment, staring at the city skyline through her window. This was exactly what she'd feared, the choice between the career she'd built and the life she wanted. Marcus had forced it into sharp relief, made it impossible to ignore. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. "Dinner tonight? Emma wants to make you her famous spaghetti surprise. Fair warning, the surprise is that it's terrible." Victoria found herself smiling despite everything. She typed back, "Can't wait. See you at 6." She had 3 hours to decide what she was going to do about the Brennan case, about Marcus, about the partnership. 3 hours to figure out who she wanted to be. The decision came easier than expected. At 4 o'clock, Victoria walked into Marcus Chen's office without knocking. He looked up from his computer, surprised, but quickly masking it with professional courtesy. "Victoria, what can I do for you?" "You went after the Brennan case deliberately. You knew I was consulting on it, and you convinced them I couldn't handle it because of my personal life." Marcus leaned back in his chair, not bothering to deny it. "I convinced them I was the better choice. That's not personal. It's business." "You made it personal when you questioned my availability based on the fact that I have a relationship." "Do you have a relationship, or do you have a liability? Because from where I'm sitting, dating a construction worker half your age doesn't exactly inspire client confidence." The words were designed to wound, and they did. But Victoria had spent too many years in courtrooms to let emotion override strategy. "You're right," she said calmly. "I do have a relationship with a remarkable man who's taught me more about integrity and priorities than 20 years of practicing law ever did. And you're also right that it affects my availability. I won't work weekends indefinitely. I won't cancel on commitments I've made. And I won't sacrifice every personal relationship for professional advancement." Marcus smirked. "Then you've already lost the partnership." "Maybe, but at least I'll still have a life worth living when the vote is over." Victoria moved toward the door, then paused. "Good luck with Brennan Industries. You're going to need it. Patricia's a nightmare client who changes her mind daily and expects psychic anticipation of every need. Enjoy your year of complete availability." She left before he could respond, feeling strangely liberated. She'd lost the case, possibly lost the partnership, but she'd kept her integrity intact. And somehow, that felt like winning. Dinner at Ryan's apartment was exactly the chaotic joy she needed. Emma's famous spaghetti surprise turned out to be regular spaghetti with an alarming amount of cheese and what appeared to be gummy bears mixed in. "Emma, sweetheart, gummy bears aren't a traditional pasta ingredient," Ryan said gently, examining his plate with barely concealed horror. "But they make it more fun. Right, Miss V?" Victoria looked at the neon-colored candy melting into the marinara sauce and made a decision. She twirled a forkful of the concoction and took a deliberate bite. "It's definitely surprising," she managed, trying not to gag on the texture of hot gummy bears. Emma beamed with pride while Ryan mouthed, "You don't have to eat that," across the table. But Victoria kept eating, kept smiling, kept participating in this absurd, wonderful moment. Because this, sitting in a cramped kitchen eating terrible spaghetti with a 6-year-old who'd put candy in the sauce, this was real. This mattered in a way winning cases never had. After dinner, while Emma was absorbed in drawing at the table, Ryan pulled Victoria aside into the small hallway. "You're quiet tonight. More than usual." "What happened?" She told him about the Brennan case, about Patricia's reasoning, about Marcus's calculated play. "I'm sorry," Ryan said simply. "That's not fair. It's strategic. Marcus is playing the game better than I am. The game is rigged if it requires you to have no personal life to win. Maybe, but those are the rules I agreed to when I chose this career." Ryan cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Victoria, do you want that partnership?" "I thought I did. I've been working toward it for years." "That's not what I asked. Do you want it now, knowing what it costs?" Victoria thought about 60-hour weeks bleeding into 80, about missed Saturdays and canceled dinners, and the slow erosion of everything she'd built with Ryan and Emma. She thought about becoming the kind of attorney who had no life outside the office, who measured success in billable hours and case wins and partnership equity. "I want both," she admitted. "I want the career and I want you, but I'm starting to realize I can't have both at this firm." "Then maybe it's time to consider other options." "Like what? Starting over somewhere else?" "I'm 47, Ryan. This is my firm. These are my colleagues, my reputation, my entire professional identity.
Your professional identity, yes, but not your whole identity. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. What if you started your own practice? Took on the cases you actually care about, set your own hours, built something that fits your life instead of sacrificing your life to fit someone else's vision of success. Victoria stared at him, the idea so foreign, it took a moment to process. Start my own firm? That's insane. The overhead costs alone are manageable if you start small.
Rent a small office, hire a part-time assistant, take cases on contingency at first. You're brilliant, Victoria. Clients would follow you. You make it sound simple. I didn't say it was simple. I said it was possible. There's a difference. Emma called from the kitchen, wanting to show them her drawing. Another picture of their family, this time including what appeared to be Professor Whiskers the hamster and a very large dinosaur. That's you, Miss V, Emma explained, pointing to a stick figure with dark hair. And that's Daddy. And that's me. And that's Professor Whiskers. And that's the dinosaur we're going to adopt when I'm older. We're not adopting a dinosaur, sweetheart, Ryan said patiently. But we could adopt a dog. Miss V likes dogs, right? Victoria found herself laughing despite everything. I've never had a dog, but I'm willing to consider it. See, Daddy? She said yes. She said she'd consider it, which is not the same as yes. Victoria watched them banter, watched Emma's animated explanations of why they absolutely needed a dog, and Ryan's gentle but firm responses about responsibility and commitment, and she realized something profound. This was the partnership that mattered, not the one at Morrison and Hale, but this one. The partnership of building a life together, of showing up for each other, of choosing love over convenience. Later, after Emma was asleep and Victoria and Ryan were curled together on the couch, she brought up the partnership vote again. I'm going to withdraw my name from consideration, she said quietly. Ryan pulled back to look at her. Are you sure? No, but I'm certain that if I win it, it'll be because I proved I can sacrifice everything personal for professional success. And I don't want to prove that anymore. I don't want to be that person. What will you do instead? I don't know yet. Maybe explore starting my own practice, like you suggested. Maybe look for a smaller firm with better work-life balance. Maybe take some time to figure out what I actually want instead of what I think I should want. She threaded her fingers through his. But whatever I do, I want to build a life that has room for you and Emma. That's non-negotiable. You know what this means, right? You're choosing us. I'm choosing myself. The version of myself that includes you and Emma? Yes. But also the version that wants to read bedtime stories and make terrible pancakes and have a life outside billable hours. Ryan kissed her softly. I'm proud of you. And I love you. And whatever you decide to do next, we'll figure it out together. The partnership meeting Thursday morning was smaller than Victoria expected, just the 4 senior partners and the 2 candidates. Marcus arrived precisely on time, carrying a leather portfolio and wearing an expression of supreme confidence. Victoria arrived 3 minutes early, carrying nothing but her certainty. Thomas Morrison, the founding partner, called the meeting to order. Thank you both for your patience during this process. You're both exceptional attorneys, and this decision has been difficult. Before we announce our decision, does either of you have anything you'd like to say? Marcus launched into a prepared speech about commitment and vision and his plans for expanding the firm's corporate practice. It was polished, professional, exactly what they wanted to hear. When he finished, all eyes turned to Victoria. I'd like to withdraw my name from consideration, she said simply. The silence was deafening. Thomas leaned forward, frowning. Victoria, that's unexpected. Can you elaborate? I've been with this firm for 15 years. I've given everything to building my practice, winning cases, bringing in clients, and I'm incredibly proud of that work. But I've realized that partnership here requires a level of personal sacrifice I'm no longer willing to make. Because of your relationship? Marcus couldn't keep the smugness from his voice. Because of my life. Yes, I'm in a relationship. I'm also building connections with people I care about, investing in experiences outside the office, choosing to be a whole person instead of just a lawyer. And if that makes me unsuitable for partnership, then this isn't the right partnership for me. Thomas exchanged glances with the other partners. Victoria, you're one of our most valuable attorneys. Surely we can discuss this. There's nothing to discuss. I've made my decision. I'll continue working here as long as I'm welcome, but I won't be pursuing partnership. She stood, smoothing her skirt. Congratulations, Marcus. I hope the Brennan case goes well. She walked out of the conference room with her head high, feeling lighter with every step. Behind her, she could hear urgent whispers, but she didn't turn back. Jennifer was waiting at her desk when Victoria returned to her office. Well? Jennifer asked anxiously. I withdrew. You what? I withdrew my name from partnership consideration. Marcus wins by default. Jennifer's expression cycled through shock, confusion, and finally something like respect. Wow. Okay. What are you going to do now? Victoria looked around her office. The diplomas on the wall, the case files stacked precisely, the expensive view she'd worked years to earn. It had defined her for so long. And now it was just a room. I'm going to finish the cases I'm currently working on. I'm going to train my replacement, and then I'm going to figure out what comes next. Are you scared? Terrified, but also excited. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm making choices instead of just following the path I set for myself decades ago. Her phone buzzed. Ryan had texted, "How did it go?" Victoria typed back, "I walked away, and I feel free." I'm proud of you. Dinner tonight to celebrate? Absolutely. Emma's spaghetti surprise? I was thinking takeout. I'm pretty sure we both have PTSD from last night. Victoria laughed, actually laughed out loud in her serious office, and Jennifer grinned. You seem happy, Jennifer observed. I am. I really am. The next few weeks were a blur of transitions. Victoria systematically closed her active cases, referred clients to other attorneys, and began the process of disentangling herself from Morrison and Hale. The partners tried to convince her to stay, offering reduced hours and more flexible arrangements, but Victoria knew it wouldn't work. The culture of the firm required total commitment, and she was no longer willing to give that. Instead, she started researching what it would take to start her own practice. Small office spaces, malpractice insurance, operating costs. The numbers were daunting, but not impossible. She'd saved aggressively over the years, lived well below her means despite her income. She had a financial cushion that could support a lean startup. More importantly, she had 3 clients who'd already committed to following her, people she'd represented over the years who trusted her judgment more than they cared about firm prestige. Ryan helped her look at office spaces on Saturdays, Emma in tow offering opinions about which rooms had the best light for thinking. They found a small suite in a converted historic building, 2 rooms with beautiful old windows and enough space for a desk, a conference table, and a small waiting area. This is it, Victoria said, standing in the empty space and envisioning her future. This is where I build something new. It's perfect, Emma announced. You need plants, though, lots of plants, and maybe a fish tank. Fish tank is negotiable. Plants I can do. Ryan wrapped his arm around Victoria's shoulders. How does it feel? Like stepping off a cliff, terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. You're going to be amazing. I hope so, because I just committed to a 3-year lease and I have exactly 3 clients. 4 if you count me. I'll probably need legal help again eventually. Emma keeps trying to sue the neighbor kid for hamster defamation. Victoria laughed, pulling Emma into a hug. I'll represent you pro bono, family discount. The word hung in the air between them. Family. She'd said it casually, but the weight of it was anything but casual. Emma looked up at her seriously. Are we a family now, Miss V? Victoria's heart clenched. She glanced at Ryan, who was watching her with an expression of hope and vulnerability. I'd like us to be, Victoria said carefully. If that's okay with both of you. More than okay, Ryan said quietly. Emma threw her arms around Victoria's waist. I knew it. I told my teacher you were going to be my new mom, and she said I shouldn't assume things, but I knew. Victoria froze. Mom. The word she'd never thought would apply to her, suddenly hanging in the air like a promise and a terror combined. Emma, sweetheart, Ryan started gently. We've talked about this. Miss Victoria is important to us, but it's okay. Victoria interrupted. She knelt down to Emma's level, taking her small hands. Emma, I would be honored if you wanted to think of me that way, but you should know that I've never been a mom before. I'm probably going to make mistakes and do things wrong and need your help figuring it out.
That's okay. I'll teach you. It's not that hard. You just have to love me and make sure I eat vegetables and help with homework and read stories and be there when I'm sad. I can do all those things. Victoria's voice was rough with emotion. I want to do all those things. Then you can be my mom. My extra mom. Because I already have a mom who's in heaven, but Daddy says love doesn't run out, so I can have another one too. Victoria looked at Ryan, who had tears in his eyes. Is that okay? She asked him. If she calls me that? Victoria, there's nothing I want more than for you to be part of our family. Fully, completely part of it. He pulled them both into an embrace, the three of them standing in an empty office that represented new beginnings. If you're ready for that, I'm ready. I'm absolutely ready. They stood there for a long moment, the three of them wrapped together, and Victoria felt something shift fundamentally in her understanding of herself. She wasn't just Victoria Hale, attorney at law, anymore. She was Victoria, part of a family. Victoria, who was learning to be a mother figure to a remarkable little girl. Victoria, who was building a life instead of just a career.
The grand opening of Hale Legal Services was a quiet affair. Just Ryan, Emma, Jennifer, who'd agreed to work part-time as her assistant, and David and Caroline, who'd insisted on bringing champagne and flowers. To new beginnings, David toasted, raising his glass. May you build something extraordinary. To family, Caroline added, smiling warmly at Ryan and Emma. To being brave enough to choose differently, Victoria said, looking at the small office she'd turned into her own. Plants in the windows, Emma's drawings on one wall, a photo of the three of them on her desk. It wasn't prestigious or impressive, but it was authentically hers. Emma raised her juice box. To Miss V being the best lawyer and the best extra mom. They clinked glasses and juice boxes, and Victoria felt a completeness she'd never experienced in all her years at Morrison and Hale. The first month was harder than she'd expected. Cases were slow to materialize, billable hours were sparse, and there were moments of panic when she wondered if she'd made a catastrophic mistake. But Ryan was there through all of it, steady and supportive, reminding her that success wasn't built overnight. And slowly, things began to shift. Word spread that Victoria Hale had started her own practice. Former clients called, referred friends, brought cases. She took on a tenant rights case that reminded her of Ryan's original lawsuit, won it decisively, and suddenly had a reputation for protecting the underrepresented. 3 months in, she was profitable. 6 months in, she was thriving. But more importantly, she was happy. She made it to every school event Emma invited her to. She had dinner with Ryan at least 4 nights a week. She took weekends off entirely, dedicating them to the family she'd built. And on a Saturday morning in September, 9 months after their first kiss in the rain, Ryan asked her to move in with them. They were at the park, their park, watching Emma play on the swings. Ryan had been unusually quiet all morning, and Victoria had learned to recognize when he was working up to something important. I've been thinking, he started, then stopped, took a breath, started again. Our lease is up for renewal next month. The landlord's raising the rent, and honestly, the apartment is getting cramped with all 3 of us there so much. You want to move? Victoria asked, her heart sinking at the thought of losing the apartment that had become home. I want us to move. Together. Find a bigger place with room for all of us. Maybe with a yard where Emma can play, and we can get that dog she keeps begging for. Victoria stared at him. You want me to move in with you? Officially? I want us to build a home together. Not my apartment that you visit, but our home. All 3 of us. He took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. I love you, Victoria. Emma loves you. We want you fully in our lives, not just visiting on weekends and weeknights. We want you there for breakfast and bedtime and all the boring, ordinary moments in between. That's a big step. I know, and if you're not ready, we can wait. But I'm ready. I've been ready since you ate Emma's gummy bear spaghetti and pretended it was good. Victoria laughed through sudden tears. That was terrible spaghetti. The absolute worst. And you ate it anyway because you love her. I do love her. I love both of you. So much it terrifies me. Is that a yes? Victoria looked at Emma on the swings, flying higher with each push, fearless and joyful. She thought about morning chaos and bedtime stories and the 1,000 small moments that made a family. She thought about the life she'd built for herself, successful, controlled, perfect on paper. And then she thought about the life she could have instead. Messy, unpredictable, real. Yes, she said. Yes, I want to move in with you. I want to build a home together. I want all of it. Ryan kissed her, deep and sure, and Emma must have sensed something because she came running over, breathless and grinning. What happened? Why are you kissing? Miss V is moving in with us, Ryan announced. We're going to find a bigger place, together. Emma shrieked with joy, launching herself at Victoria with enough force to nearly knock her over. Really? You're going to live with us forever? Forever is a long time, Victoria said carefully. But for as long as you and your dad want me, yes. I want you forever, Emma said seriously. So that's settled. And standing there in their park, with the man she loved and the daughter she'd never expected to have, Victoria realized that Emma was right. It was settled. All of it. The partnership she'd walked away from, the career she'd rebuilt on her own terms, the family she'd found when she stopped looking for perfection and started looking for truth. She'd chosen differently. Chosen love over prestige, authenticity over image, a life that was beautifully imperfect over one that was perfectly empty. And it was the best choice she'd ever made. Part 4. Louis? Viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện, pha hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới, liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần, duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kẻ theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau, câu chuyện không nhắc đến Chúa. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document. Chi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí. Không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Show more, 0943, Part 4. House hunting with a 6-year-old turned out to be an adventure Victoria hadn't anticipated. Emma had very specific requirements that somehow managed to be both completely reasonable and utterly impossible to satisfy simultaneously. It has to have a yard for the dog we're getting, Emma announced at their third showing, a cramped townhouse with a postage stamp patio. And a big kitchen so we can all cook together. And my room needs good light for drawing. And there has to be a special spot for Miss V to work when she brings files home. The real estate agent, a patient woman named Susan, smiled indulgently. That's quite a list, sweetheart. Emma, we've talked about being flexible, Ryan said gently, though Victoria could see the exhaustion around his eyes. They'd been looking for 3 weeks now, and every place was either too expensive, too small, or in the wrong neighborhood. I'm being flexible. I didn't say it needs a pool or a treehouse. Though a treehouse would be really cool, Daddy. Victoria caught Ryan's eye and had to suppress a laugh. They'd stumbled into this search with romantic optimism, imagining they'd quickly find the perfect place to start their life together. Reality had been considerably more complicated. That evening, after dropping Emma with her regular babysitter for a few hours, Ryan and Victoria sat in her apartment, the one she'd already given notice on, surrounded by real estate listings and budget spreadsheets. Maybe we're being too picky, Victoria said, highlighting another property that was almost right but not quite. We could make the place on Riverside work. It's in our budget, good school district. It has 1 bathroom for 3 people, one of whom is a 6-year-old girl who takes 40-minute showers. Ryan rubbed his face tiredly. I'm not saying we need a mansion, but I'd like to not be fighting over bathroom time every morning. When you put it that way. Victoria set down her pen, studying Ryan's profile. He looked worn down, stressed in a way she rarely saw. Talk to me. What's really wrong? I'm worried we're making a mistake. The admission came quietly, almost ashamed. Not about us. Never about us. But about the timing. Your practice is still getting established. My income is stable but not exactly flush, and we're trying to find a place that costs more than either of us has ever paid in rent. So we're terrified. That's normal, isn't it? Is it?
Because sometimes I wonder if I'm being selfish, asking you to build a life around us when you could have stayed at Morrison and Hale, could have had that partnership, could have. Victoria silenced him with a kiss, fierce and definitive. When she pulled back, she kept her hands on his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Stop. I made that choice freely, and I'd make it again every single day.
The partnership would have cost me everything that actually matters. This, she gestured between them, this is what I want. A home with you and Emma, a life that's real instead of impressive. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard. That's how you know it's worth fighting for. Ryan pulled her close, and they sat in silence for a while, holding each other while the city darkened outside her windows. Victoria thought about all the evenings she'd spent alone in this apartment, working late into the night, measuring her worth in billable hours. And now here she was, stressed about bathroom logistics and school districts and whether they could afford a house with a yard. She'd never been happier. We'll find something, she said finally. Even if it takes longer than we'd like. Even if it's not perfect. We'll find a place that can become home. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Victoria was in court Friday morning, arguing a motion for a client who'd been wrongfully terminated from her job, when she noticed a familiar face in the gallery. Thomas Morrison, her former senior partner, watching with his characteristic intensity. She won the motion. The evidence was overwhelmingly in her client's favor, and was gathering her files when Thomas approached. That was excellent work, Victoria. Sharp, precise, devastating. Everything I've come to expect from you. Thank you, Thomas. What brings you to housing court? You, actually. Can I buy you coffee? They settled into a cafe 2 blocks from the courthouse, and Thomas got straight to the point. The firm misses you. More accurately, our clients miss you. I've had 3 major accounts ask specifically for you in the past month alone. I'm sure Marcus is handling them well. Thomas made a dismissive sound. Marcus is competent, but he's not you. He doesn't have your instinct, your ability to read a room, your gift for making clients feel heard. He paused, stirring sugar into his coffee with deliberate care. I want to make you an offer. Victoria's stomach tightened. Thomas, I'm not coming back as a senior attorney. We've been through this. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to consider a different arrangement. What if Morrison and Hale referred cases to your practice? We handle the corporate work, the big accounts, the cases that require a full team. But the individual clients, the smaller cases, the work that needs personal attention, those we send to you. We'd formalize a referral partnership, guarantee you a steady stream of clients, and in exchange, we'd get to tell our people we're still connected to the best tenant rights attorney in the state. Victoria stared at him. You want to partner with my firm? It's mutually beneficial. You get financial stability and client flow. We get to maintain relationships with people who specifically requested you and smooth over some of the damage from your departure. Thomas met her eyes steadily. And between us, Victoria, I think we made a mistake. The firm's culture is too rigid, too demanding. We're losing good attorneys because we can't adapt. Maybe we can't change the whole system, but we can support alternatives like what you're building. This is a significant offer, Thomas. I'll need time to think about it. Take all the time you need, but Victoria, consider what it could mean. Financial security for your practice. The ability to take on the cases you're passionate about without worrying whether you'll make rent. The freedom to build the life you want while still doing exceptional legal work. After he left, Victoria sat with her coffee, mind racing. A referral partnership with Morrison and Hale could change everything. Steady income, credibility, the resources to expand her practice. It was everything she'd been working toward. She called Ryan immediately. Thomas Morrison just offered me a referral partnership, she said without preamble when he answered. Morrison and Hale would send cases to my firm. Guaranteed client flow, financial stability, the whole package. That's incredible. Victoria, that's exactly what you needed. I know. It's perfect timing, too. If we had guaranteed income from the referral partnership, we could afford a better place. Maybe even buy instead of rent. The silence on the other end stretched long enough that Victoria pulled the phone from her ear to check if the call had dropped. Ryan? Sorry, I'm here, just processing. He took an audible breath. Buy a house? Together? Is that too much? I know we were just planning to rent. No, it's not too much. It's just big, really big. Victoria's heart sank. You're having second thoughts. Not about us.
About whether I can contribute equally to something like that. Victoria, you make significantly more than I do. If we buy a house, the down payment is going to come mostly from you. The mortgage payments, you'll be carrying the larger share. And I don't know how I feel about that. Oh, Ryan, we're building a life together. It doesn't matter who contributes what financially. It matters to me. I'm not some charity case you're supporting. I'm supposed to be your partner. The edge in his voice stung. You are my partner in every way that matters. Except financially. Let's be honest, Victoria. I'm a construction supervisor. You're an attorney with your own practice about to land a major partnership deal. We're not exactly equals here. If you truly believe that, then we have a bigger problem than house hunting. Victoria's voice went cold, professional. The tone she used in courtrooms, not with people she loved. I thought we'd move past this, past worrying about what other people think, past measuring our relationship by conventional standards. This isn't about what other people think. It's about me being able to look myself in the mirror and know I'm pulling my weight. You are pulling your weight. You're an incredible father. You make me laugh. You challenge me to be better. You've taught me what it means to actually live instead of just exist. That's worth more than any paycheck. But it doesn't pay the mortgage, does it? The words hung between them, sharp and painful. Victoria felt something crack in her chest, not breaking, but fracturing under pressure. I have to go, she said quietly. I have a client meeting in 20 minutes. Victoria, wait. She hung up before he could finish, staring at her phone like it was a foreign object. They'd never fought like this before. Small disagreements, yes, but never this fundamental disconnect about their worth to each other. Her phone buzzed immediately with a text from Ryan. I'm sorry, that came out wrong. Can we talk tonight? Victoria typed and deleted 3 different responses before finally settling on, I need some space to think. I'll call you tomorrow. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and phone calls and paperwork that required her attention but couldn't hold it. Her mind kept circling back to Ryan's words, to the hurt beneath his anger, to her own frustrated response. She understood his pride. She'd spent her entire career proving her worth through achievement, measuring herself against impossible standards. But she'd thought they'd built something different, a relationship where worth wasn't measured in dollars or status or conventional markers of success. Maybe she'd been wrong. That night, alone in her apartment that was already half-packed, surrounded by boxes of the life she was supposed to be merging with Ryan's, Victoria allowed herself to spiral into doubt. What if this was a mistake? What if the age gap and the income disparity and all the practical complications were too much? What if she'd been naive to think love could overcome everything? Her phone rang at 9 o'clock. Emma's face lit up the screen. Ryan must have helped her video call. Miss V, are you okay? Daddy said you had a hard day. Victoria's throat tightened. Hi, sweetheart. I'm okay, just tired. Daddy's sad. He won't tell me why, but I can tell. Emma's face was serious, those hazel eyes far too perceptive. Did you guys have a fight? We had a disagreement. Sometimes adults disagree about important things. Are you going to break up? The question came out small, frightened. No, baby. No. We're not breaking up. Victoria said it with absolute certainty, realizing as she spoke that it was true. Whatever problem she and Ryan needed to work through, ending their relationship wasn't the answer. We just need to figure some things out. You should come over. You can help me with my homework, and then we can all talk about feelings. That's what my teacher says to do when people disagree. Talk about feelings. Despite everything, Victoria smiled. Your teacher is very wise. So you'll come over? Victoria looked at her packed apartment, at the home she was leaving to build something new. She thought about pride and fear and all the ways people sabotage their own happiness by refusing to be vulnerable. Put your dad on the phone, sweetheart. Emma's face disappeared, replaced by Ryan's. He looked exhausted, worried, sorry. Hi, he said quietly. Hi. Emma invited me over to help with homework and talk about feelings. She's very subtle, isn't she? About as subtle as a sledgehammer. Victoria took a breath. I'm coming over, but Ryan, we need to really talk. Not fight, not defend our positions, but actually hear each other. I know, and I'm sorry for earlier. I was being an idiot. You were being scared. There's a difference. 30 minutes later, Victoria was sitting at Ryan's kitchen table helping Emma with math homework while Ryan made dinner. The domestic normalcy of it was almost surreal given the tension underlying everything. After Emma finished her homework and convinced them all to play one very chaotic game of Go Fish, Ryan sent her to get ready for bed. Then he and Victoria sat down in the living room, the space between them on the couch feeling wider than usual. "I'm terrified," Ryan said before Victoria could speak, "of not being enough for you, of Emma getting attached and then losing another mother figure if this doesn't work, of building a life we can't sustain financially, of all of it." "I'm terrified too," Victoria admitted, "of committing to this completely and then having it fall apart, of not being good enough at being a mother figure to Emma, of losing the parts of myself I just found. But Ryan, being terrified doesn't mean we're making a mistake. It means we're doing something real." "I know, when you talked about buying a house, I panicked because I can't contribute equally to a down payment. I don't have savings like you do, and my income is steady but not substantial. And the idea of you paying for most of our home makes me feel like I'm not a real partner. But you are contributing equally, just not financially." Victoria moved closer, taking his hand. "You're contributing your time with Emma, your emotional support when I'm stressed about the practice, your perspective that keeps me grounded. You're contributing the home you've already built for Emma, the stability she needs, the love you both offer me. That's not less valuable than money. Society doesn't see it that way." "I don't care what society sees, I care what we build together." She cupped his face, making him look at her. "If the financial disparity bothers you, we can structure things differently. Put the house in both our names, but track contributions separately. Have you cover more of the daily expenses while I handle the bigger stuff? Whatever makes you feel like an equal partner, we'll do it." "You do that? Complicate everything just to make me feel better about my pride?" "It's not pride, Ryan. It's dignity. And yes, I'd absolutely do that. Because your dignity matters to me. Your comfort in our relationship matters to me. I want you to feel like an equal partner because you are one." Ryan pulled her into his arms, holding tight. "I don't deserve you." "That's ridiculous. I don't deserve you. So we're even." They held each other for a long moment, the tension slowly bleeding away. Then Ryan said, "I want to buy a house together. I'm scared as hell, but I want it. I want to build a home with you and Emma. I want the yard and the extra bathroom and the space for your files and all of it. Even though it's terrifying? Especially because it's terrifying. That's how I know it matters." Emma appeared in the doorway in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Are you guys okay now?" "We're okay, sweetheart," Victoria assured her. "Good, because I found the perfect house online and you need to see it right now." Ryan and Victoria exchanged amused glances. "Emma, we've looked at a lot of houses. What makes this one perfect?" Emma climbed onto the couch between them, tablet in hand, pulling up a real estate listing. "Look! It has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a yard, and it's near my school, and it has a room that could be Miss V's office, and the kitchen is big enough for all of us, and it's pretty." Victoria looked at the listing Emma had found. It was a small craftsman-style house, about 15 minutes from Emma's current school, with a fenced yard and a separate room that could work as a home office. The price was at the very top of their budget, maybe slightly beyond, but not impossibly so. "How did you find this?" Ryan asked, scrolling through the photos. "I've been looking every day after school. I have very specific requirements, Daddy. I told you that." Emma's tone was matter-of-fact, as if 6-year-olds house hunting online was completely normal. "Should we have Susan show it to us tomorrow?" Victoria asked. "Tomorrow's Saturday," Emma pointed out. "Our park day." "We can do both," Ryan said. "Park in the morning, house viewing in the afternoon. And if we like it, can we make an offer, please?" Victoria and Ryan looked at each other over Emma's head, having one of those silent conversations that came from really knowing someone. "Let's see it first," Ryan said. "But sweetheart, if this is the one, we'll do everything we can to make it work." Emma threw her arms around both of them, and Victoria felt that now familiar surge of love for this little girl who'd somehow become her daughter in everything but legal paperwork. After Ryan put Emma to bed, he and Victoria stayed up late talking through logistics. How they'd structure the house purchase, what percentage each would contribute, how they'd handle shared expenses. It was practical and unromantic and absolutely necessary, and Victoria loved that they could have these conversations honestly. "I want you to know something,"
Ryan said as they were finishing up the budget spreadsheet.
Even when I was being an idiot earlier about the money, even when I was letting my pride get in the way, I never doubted us. Not really. I was just scared. I know. I was scared too. I'm still scared. But we're doing it anyway. We're doing it anyway. The house viewing Saturday afternoon exceeded even Emma's enthusiastic expectations. The place had character. Original hardwood floors, built-in bookshelves, a kitchen with enough counter space to actually cook. The yard was bigger than the photos suggested, with an old oak tree perfect for a swing and enough room for Emma's promised dog to run. The separate room that could be Victoria's office had good natural light and enough space for a desk, filing cabinets, and a small meeting area. She could already envision client consultations here, working from home when she needed to be available for Emma. "What do you think?" Ryan asked quietly while Emma raced around the backyard, pointing out where everything should go. "I think it's perfect. I think it's terrifying. I think I want it more than I've wanted anything in a long time. Even knowing what it costs, what it means. Especially knowing that." Victoria took his hand. "Let's make an offer." They made an offer that evening. It was accepted by Monday morning. Suddenly, the abstract idea of building a life together became concrete. Inspection schedules and mortgage applications and closing dates. Victoria threw herself into the process with her usual intensity, organizing documents and coordinating with lenders and making endless checklists. But this time, the stress felt different. She wasn't doing it alone, wasn't carrying everything herself. Ryan handled the inspection walkthroughs and coordinated with contractors about minor repairs. They made decisions together, compromised when they disagreed, supported each other through the inevitable complications. And through it all, Emma treated the whole thing like the world's most exciting adventure, making plans for her room and the yard and where Professor Whisker's cage would go in the new house. "We need to tell her," Ryan said one evening, 3 weeks before the scheduled closing. "About everything. About us getting more serious, about what this house means." "You mean tell her we're essentially becoming a family?" "I think she already knows, Ryan. She's been calling me her extra mom for months." "I mean, tell her officially. Make it real. Maybe even talk about me adopting her legally, making you her actual parent, not just emotionally?" Victoria's heart stopped. "Adoption? Ryan, that's huge." "I know, and we don't have to rush it. But Victoria, you are her parent in every way that matters. You show up for her. You love her. You're building your life around her needs. Making it legal just makes it official." "What about Sarah?" "I would never want to replace her memory." "You're not replacing her. You're adding to Emma's life, giving her more love, more support. Sarah would want that for her. She'd want Emma to have a mother figure who adores her." Ryan's voice was gentle, but firm. "And you do adore her." "I do. More than I ever thought possible." "Then let's tell her. Let's make this real." They sat Emma down that weekend, the three of them on the couch in what was still Ryan's apartment, but wouldn't be for much longer. "Sweetheart, we want to talk to you about something important," Ryan started. Emma immediately looked worried. "Is something wrong?" "No, baby, nothing's wrong," Victoria assured her. "Actually, something's very right." "You know how we're buying a house together?" Ryan continued. "Well, that's because we want to be a real family. Not just people who spend time together, but an actual family." "I know, I told you that already." Emma's expression was confused, like they were explaining something obvious. "Right, but we want to make it official, which means Miss Victoria would become your legal parent too, through adoption." Emma's eyes went wide. "Really? Like, actually my mom? Not just my extra mom?" "If that's okay with you," Victoria said, her voice catching slightly. "I would never try to replace your first mom. But if you want me to be your mom too, legally and officially, I would be honored." Emma launched herself at Victoria with enough force to nearly knock her off the couch, wrapping her arms around her neck and holding tight. "Yes, yes, yes, yes. I want you to be my real mom." Emma pulled back, suddenly serious. "But you have to promise you'll stay, forever. You can't leave like Mama did." Victoria felt tears spill over. "Sweetheart, your mama didn't want to leave. She got very sick. But I promise I will do everything in my power to stay healthy and safe and be here for you, for as long as you need me." "Forever," Emma insisted. "I need you forever."
Then forever it is. They held each other while Ryan wrapped his arms around both of them, and Victoria felt the last pieces of her old life fall completely away. This was her family now. This little girl and this man and the home they were building together. The closing happened on a rainy Thursday in October. Victoria signed more documents than she had for most legal cases, her hand cramping by the end. But when the realtor handed over the keys, when they walked into their house, not Ryan's or Victoria's, but theirs, the exhaustion disappeared. Emma ran from room to room, calling out discoveries. My room has a window seat. The kitchen has a pantry. There's a closet under the stairs like in Harry Potter. Ryan pulled Victoria close, kissing her softly. We did it. We actually did it. We did. We bought a house. We're really doing this. Having second thoughts? Victoria looked around at the empty rooms waiting to be filled with their lives, at Emma dancing in the living room, at Ryan's face filled with hope and love, and the promise of everything they were building together. Not even for a second. Moving day was chaos incarnate. Victoria's carefully organized boxes mixed with Ryan's haphazard packing, Emma's toys scattered across every surface, furniture that didn't quite fit where they'd planned. They worked through the weekend with help from Jennifer and a few of Ryan's colleagues from construction sites, slowly transforming the empty house into a home. Sunday evening, exhausted and surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, they ordered pizza and sat on the floor of their living room because the couch wasn't assembled yet. This is insane, Victoria said, surveying the disaster around them. We're never going to get everything unpacked. Sure we will. We have the rest of our lives. Ryan clinked his beer bottle against her wine glass. Emma, covered in pizza sauce and completely content, leaned against Victoria's shoulder. I love our new house, even though it's messy. Especially because it's messy, Victoria corrected. Messy means it's being lived in. Later, after Emma was asleep in her new room and Ryan was tackling the bedroom setup, Victoria stood in what would be her home office. She'd already set up her desk, hung her law degree on the wall, organized her files. The room felt both familiar and completely new, a space that was entirely hers within a home that belonged to all of them. Her phone rang. Thomas Morrison's name appeared on the screen. Thomas, hi. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I just wanted to check in. Are you still interested in the referral partnership? I have 3 potential clients waiting to hear if you'll take them on. Victoria looked around her office, at the life she'd built, at the home she'd created. Absolutely. Send me their information and I'll set up consultations this week. Excellent. Victoria, I'm glad this is working out. The firm benefits, your practice benefits, the client's benefit. It's rare to find solutions this elegant. After hanging up, Victoria finished organizing her office with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt at Morrison & Hale. This was her practice, her rules, her choices. And it was going to work. She found Ryan in their bedroom, attempting to assemble their bed frame with instructions that were apparently in Swedish. How's it going? She asked, suppressing a smile at the parts scattered across the floor. I build commercial buildings for a living, and I can't figure out how to put together one bed. This is humiliating. Victoria sat down next to him, picking up the instructions. Let me see. I'm good at decoding complicated documents. Together, they figured out the Swedish hieroglyphics and assembled the frame. It was nearly midnight by the time they finished, both of them giddy with exhaustion and accomplishment. First night in our new bed, Ryan said, pulling Victoria down beside him. In our new house, with our family sleeping down the hall. It's perfect. It's chaos. Same thing. They fell asleep tangled together, and when Victoria woke in the morning to Emma jumping on their bed announcing that she'd found a spider in the bathroom and they needed to rescue it immediately, she didn't feel annoyed. She felt complete. This was her life now. Chaotic, unpredictable, full of spiders and Swedish furniture, and a little girl who needed everything explained, and a man who made her laugh even when she was exhausted. It was nothing like the life she'd planned, and it was absolutely everything she'd never known she needed. The adoption paperwork arrived on a Tuesday morning in late November, 6 weeks after they'd moved into the house. Victoria sat at her kitchen table, their kitchen table, staring at the forms that would legally make her Emma's mother. Her hands trembled slightly as she read through the requirements, the background checks, the home study evaluations, all the bureaucratic steps between intention and reality. Ryan found her there an hour later, still staring at the first page. "Having second thoughts?" he asked gently, setting a cup of coffee in front of her. Terrified thoughts. What if I'm not good enough? What if I mess this up? What if Emma decides in 5 years that she doesn't want me as her legal mother and regrets this whole thing? Ryan sat down beside her, taking her hand. "Victoria, you've been her mother in every way that matters for months now. This just makes it official." "That's what scares me. Making it official means I can't back out when it gets hard. It means I'm committed to being a parent forever, not just when it's convenient." "And you think you're going to want to back out?" Victoria looked up at him, seeing the real question beneath his words. "No, never. But what if I'm not capable of doing this long term? I've never been anyone's parent before. What if I don't know how?" "None of us know how. We just figure it out as we go." Ryan squeezed her hand. "You already figured out that Emma needs 10 minutes of quiet time after school before she can talk about her day. You already know she only eats vegetables if they're cut into shapes. You already know how to calm her down when she has nightmares about losing people she loves. You're already her mother, Victoria. The paperwork is just catching up." She pulled him into a fierce hug, burying her face against his shoulder. "I love you, both of you, so much it terrifies me." "I know, but you're doing it anyway." "I'm doing it anyway." They filled out the forms together over the next week, answering invasive questions about their finances, their relationship, their home. A social worker came to evaluate whether their house was suitable for raising a child, walking through rooms while making notes on a clipboard. Victoria felt like she was on trial, every parenting decision scrutinized and judged. But Emma charmed the social worker completely, giving an enthusiastic tour of her room and explaining in great detail why Miss Victoria was the best extra mom ever who was going to be her real mom soon. "She seems very secure in the relationship," the social worker observed, watching Emma drag Victoria outside to show her the swing Ryan had installed in the oak tree. "Victoria's been incredible with her," Ryan said. "Patient, loving, completely committed. Emma's thrived since they came into each other's lives." The social worker made another note. "And your late wife? How do you feel Emma's processed that loss?" Ryan's expression softened with old grief. "Sarah will always be Emma's first mom. We talk about her regularly, keep photos around the house, share memories. Victoria's never tried to replace her. She's just added to Emma's life, given her more love, more support. Sarah would have approved." 3 weeks later, the call came. The adoption had been approved. They could schedule the finalization hearing. Victoria was in her office when she got the news, in the middle of a client consultation about a discrimination case. She somehow managed to finish the meeting professionally before calling Ryan, her hand shaking so badly she could barely dial. "It's approved," she said when he answered. "The adoption. They approved it." Ryan's whoop of joy was loud enough that she had to pull the phone from her ear. "That's incredible. We need to celebrate. I'm picking Emma up from school early and we're taking you to dinner." "Ryan, it's 2 in the afternoon. I don't care. This is happening. We're celebrating right now." They ended up at Emma's favorite restaurant, the Italian place where they'd had their first dinner together all those months ago. Emma was confused about why she'd been picked up early, but delighted by the unexpected treat. "Are we celebrating something?" she asked, already eyeing the dessert menu. Victoria and Ryan exchanged glances. They discussed when to tell her whether to wait until after the finalization hearing or share the news now. But looking at Emma's curious, hopeful face, Victoria couldn't wait another moment. "The adoption was approved, sweetheart," Victoria said, her voice catching. "I'm officially going to be your legal mother." Emma stared at her for a long moment, processing. Then she launched herself across the table into Victoria's arms with enough force to knock over a water glass. "Really? It's really happening?" "It's really happening. In a few weeks, there will be a court hearing to make it official, and then you'll legally have 2 mothers. Your first mom who loved you and is watching over you, and me." Emma pulled back, suddenly serious. "Will I call you Mom instead of Miss V?" The question hung in the air, weighted with significance. Victoria had been avoiding thinking about this moment, unsure what she wanted, what would honor Sarah's memory, while acknowledging their new reality. "You can call me whatever feels right to you," Victoria said carefully. "Miss V is fine. Victoria is fine. Mom is fine if that's what you want. There's no wrong answer." Emma considered this with the gravity of a judge deliberating a verdict. I think I want to call you Mom. Is that okay? I'll still remember my first mom, but you're my mom now too. Victoria felt tears spill over despite her efforts to maintain composure. That's more than okay, sweetheart. That's perfect. They celebrated with too much pasta and definitely too much dessert. And when they got home that evening, Emma insisted on calling at least 5 of her school friends to announce that Miss V was officially becoming her mom. The finalization hearing was scheduled for December 15th, 2 weeks before Christmas. Victoria had been in countless courtrooms, argued before judges more times than she could count. But she'd never been this nervous. This wasn't about winning a case or proving a point. This was about becoming a mother, officially and irrevocably. They dressed carefully that morning. Emma wore her favorite dress, the one with sunflowers, and insisted on braiding her own hair because I'm old enough now. Ryan wore a suit Victoria had helped him pick out, looking impossibly handsome and slightly uncomfortable in the formal attire. Victoria chose a blue dress Emma had declared perfect for becoming a real mom. The courtroom was small, intimate. The judge was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a reputation for taking family cases seriously. She reviewed the paperwork methodically while Victoria's heart hammered against her ribs. Miss Hale, the judge began, you understand that adoption is a permanent, legally binding relationship, that you're assuming all parental responsibilities and rights for Emma Cole? I do, Your Honor. And you're prepared for the challenges that come with parenting, the sleepless nights, the difficult conversations, the moments when you'll question every decision you've made? Victoria glanced at Emma, who was sitting between her and Ryan, holding both their hands. I've already experienced many of those moments, Your Honor. And I've learned that loving Emma, being her mother, is worth every challenge. I'm not just prepared, I'm honored. The judge smiled. Mr. Cole, you consent to this adoption. Completely, Your Honor. Victoria has been Emma's mother in every meaningful way for months. This just makes it official. And Emma, the judge addressed her directly, do you understand that Ms. Hale is going to be your legal mother? That she'll be responsible for you and you'll be part of her family officially? Emma nodded seriously. She's already my mom. The papers are just telling everyone else what we already know. The judge's smile widened. Well then, I see no reason to delay. By the power vested in me by the state, I hereby grant the petition for adoption. Victoria Hale, you are now legally Emma Cole's mother. Congratulations to all of you. The gavel came down, and suddenly it was real. Victoria was a mother, not just emotionally, not just in practice, but legally and officially. Emma threw her arms around her, and Ryan wrapped them both in an embrace, and Victoria felt something fundamental shift in her understanding of herself. She was no longer just Victoria Hale, attorney. She was Victoria Hale, mother, partner, family. They celebrated with lunch at Emma's choice, predictably, the Italian restaurant again, and then spent the afternoon at the park. Their park, where everything had really begun. Emma ran and played while Victoria and Ryan sat on their usual bench, watching her with matching expressions of contentment. How does it feel? Ryan asked. Being an official mom? Terrifying, wonderful, like I just signed up for the most important job I'll ever have, and I have no idea if I'm qualified. You're qualified. Emma thinks you're perfect. Emma thinks dinosaurs are appropriate pets. Her judgment may be suspect. Ryan laughed, pulling her closer. You're going to be amazing at this. You already are. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Emma make friends with another child on the swings, her natural kindness and confidence on full display. I need to tell you something, Victoria said finally. Morrison and Hale made another offer. They want me to come back as a partner on my terms. Flexible hours, ability to work from home, full support for my family commitments. Ryan tensed slightly. What did you say? I said no. Victoria, if this is what you want, it's not. What I want is the practice I've built, taking cases I actually care about, working hours that let me be present for Emma, building something that's mine instead of fitting into someone else's vision. She turned to face him fully. The referral partnership with Morrison and Hale is working perfectly. I'm making good money, taking interesting cases, and I have complete control over my schedule. Why would I give that up? Because it's the partnership you worked toward for years. It was, but I don't want it anymore. I want this, the life we've built, the family we're creating. That's worth more than any partnership. Ryan kissed her, soft and sure. Have I mentioned lately that I love you? Not in the last hour. I was starting to worry. I love you, Victoria Hale. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for making me brave enough to choose differently. Emma ran up, breathless and beaming. Can we get hot chocolate, please? It's cold and I'm freezing, and hot chocolate makes everything better. Hot chocolate sounds perfect, Victoria agreed. Let's go home and make some together. Home. The word felt natural now, felt right. Not her apartment or Ryan's place, but their home. The house they'd chosen together, the life they'd built from courage and choice, and the willingness to risk everything for something real. That night, after Emma was asleep and Victoria and Ryan were curled together on the couch they'd finally assembled, Victoria thought about how far she'd come from that day Ryan had walked into her office with his daughter's hand in his. She'd been so certain then about who she was, what she wanted, how her life should look. And then everything had changed. Not because she'd failed or given up, but because she'd found something better than the plan she'd made. She'd found Ryan's quiet strength and Emma's boundless joy, and a love that made her braver than any courtroom battle ever had. What are you thinking about? Ryan asked, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her shoulder. About how none of this was supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to fall in love with a client. I wasn't supposed to walk away from my career. I wasn't supposed to become a mother at 47. Regrets? Victoria thought about the partnership she'd given up, the prestige she'd walked away from, the carefully controlled life she'd abandoned. Then she thought about Saturday mornings at the park, and Emma's gap-toothed smile, and the way Ryan made her laugh even on the hardest days. Not even one, she said. This is better than anything I could have planned. Even though it's messy and complicated and nothing like what you expected. Especially because of that. Perfect was boring. This is real. They fell asleep on the couch, and when Victoria woke at dawn with a crick in her neck and Ryan drooling slightly on her shoulder, she smiled. This was her life now. Imperfect, unpredictable, absolutely right. The holidays brought new traditions and old memories blending together. They decorated their first Christmas tree as a family, Emma insisting on placing every ornament herself, including several that were definitely too high and required Ryan's help despite her protests that she could reach. They baked cookies that were mostly burnt around the edges. They watched holiday movies curled together on the couch, Emma sandwiched between them, pointing out plot holes with devastating accuracy. On Christmas morning, Emma woke them at dawn, bouncing on their bed with barely contained excitement. Santa came! There are presents everywhere! Come on, come on! They stumbled downstairs to find the living room transformed. Not by excessive gifts, they'd agreed on a reasonable limit, but by the magic of watching Emma's face light up with each unwrapped package. Books and art supplies and a model rocket kit Ryan would undoubtedly end up building. Small, thoughtful gifts that showed how well they knew her. Victoria's gift from Ryan was a framed photo of the three of them at Emma's adoption hearing, all of them smiling, Emma between them. He'd had it professionally matted with the adoption decree document visible beneath the photo. So you never forget the day you officially became a mom, Ryan said as she stared at it, tears threatening to spill. As if I could forget. She kissed him softly. Thank you. It's perfect. Emma's gift to Victoria was a handmade book, carefully illustrated and bound with yarn. The story of my family was written on the cover in Emma's careful handwriting. Inside were drawings and stories about their Saturday park visits, their house hunting adventure, the adoption, all the moments that had built their family. The last page showed 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow with the words, I love my family, all of us, forever. But Victoria couldn't read it without crying, which made Emma simultaneously proud and worried. Happy tears, Victoria assured her. The best kind of tears. This is the most beautiful gift I've ever received. Later, while Emma was absorbed in building her rocket with Ryan's help, Victoria called her mother, something she'd been dreading and putting off since the adoption. Her relationship with her parents had always been cordial but distant. They'd supported her career, approved of her marriage to David, and been bewildered by her divorce. She hadn't told them about Ryan yet, hadn't mentioned the adoption, hadn't shared any of the massive changes in her life. Victoria, Merry Christmas, her mother answered warmly. We've been wondering when we'd hear from you. Merry Christmas, Mom. I have some news to share. She told her everything then, about Ryan, about Emma, about the adoption that had just been finalized. The silence on the other end stretched long enough that Victoria checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Mom? Are you there? I'm here. I'm just processing. You adopted a child at 47? I did. Her name is Emma. She's 6 years old and she's remarkable. And I'm in a relationship with her father, Ryan. We bought a house together. We're building a life. This is very sudden, Victoria, very unlike you. I know, but it's also the best decision I've ever made. More silence. Then her mother said carefully, Are you happy? The question surprised her. Her mother had never prioritized happiness over success, had never suggested that personal fulfillment mattered more than professional achievement. I am happier than I've ever been. Then I'm happy for you. Though I wish you'd told us sooner. We'd like to meet them, Ryan and Emma. You would? Victoria, you're my daughter. If this is your life now, we want to be part of it. Her mother's voice softened. And honestly, I've always wondered if you regretted not having children. I'm glad you found your way to motherhood, even if it's unconventional. They talked for another hour, Victoria sharing stories about Emma and Ryan, her mother asking questions that were genuinely interested rather than judgmental. When they hung up with plans for a visit in the new year, Victoria felt lighter, more complete. Ryan found her later, sitting in her office, staring at Emma's handmade book. Everything okay? Everything's perfect. I just talked to my mom, told her about you and Emma and the adoption. How did that go? Better than expected. They want to meet you both. Victoria looked up at him, this man who'd changed everything. I've spent my whole life making careful, strategic decisions, planning everything, controlling every variable. And then I met you and threw all of that out the window. Having regrets now? The opposite. I'm realizing that the best things in my life have been the ones I didn't plan. You, Emma, this family, none of it was part of my carefully mapped future, but it's everything I never knew I needed. Ryan pulled her up from her chair, wrapping his arms around her. You know what I love about you? You're brave enough to change course when you realize you're heading the wrong direction. Not everyone can do that. I had good motivation. You and Emma are worth any course change. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other in the quiet of Christmas afternoon, while downstairs Emma sang loudly and off-key to holiday music. This was their life now, messy and loud, and absolutely nothing like Victoria had planned, and it was perfect. That evening, after Emma was finally asleep, exhausted from excitement and sugar, Victoria and Ryan sat together in their living room surrounded by torn wrapping paper and half-assembled toys and all the beautiful chaos of their first Christmas as a family. I have one more gift for you, Ryan said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Victoria's heart stopped. The box was definitely ring-sized, definitely significant. Ryan, before you panic, just open it. Inside was a key, simple and unremarkable, except for the small tag attached. To our future. I don't understand. Ryan took her hand, his expression serious and tender. Victoria, I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. But I also know you just went through a major commitment with the adoption, just bought a house, just restructured your entire life. So this key represents a promise. When you're ready, when the time is right, I'm going to ask you to marry me. And I'm hoping you'll say yes. A promise of a proposal? A promise that I'm in this completely, that I'm not going anywhere, that when you're ready to take that next step, I'll be here waiting. He smiled slightly. No pressure, just certainty. Victoria looked at the key, at this man who understood her so completely, who knew she needed time and space and the freedom to choose without pressure. What if I'm ready now? She asked quietly. Ryan's eyes widened. What? What if I don't need time? What if I've known for months that I want to spend the rest of my life with you? What if the only thing I've been waiting for was for you to ask? Victoria, are you saying? I'm saying ask me. Now. I'm ready. Ryan fumbled in his pocket, pulling out another box. This one containing a simple, beautiful ring. I was going to wait until you seemed ready. I was trying to be patient. I don't need patience. I need you to ask me to marry you. Ryan dropped to one knee right there in their messy living room, surrounded by Christmas chaos, and took her hand. Victoria Hale, you walked into my life and changed everything. You made me believe in second chances and new beginnings. You love my daughter like she's your own. You make me laugh and you challenge me and you've shown me what it means to choose love over fear. Will you marry me? Yes, Victoria said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and pulled her into a kiss that tasted like promise and joy and forever. And when they finally broke apart, they found Emma standing in the doorway in her pajamas, grinning wildly. I knew it. I knew you were going to get married. Can I be the flower girl, please? How long have you been standing there? Ryan asked. Long enough to hear everything. You guys are really loud. Emma ran over, hugging them both. This is the best Christmas ever. We're going to be a real family forever now. We were already a real family, sweetheart, Victoria said, pulling her close. This just makes it official. Like the adoption. Exactly like the adoption. They curled up together on the couch, the three of them, and Emma fell asleep between them, completely content. Victoria looked at the ring on her finger, at the little girl sleeping peacefully against her shoulder, at Ryan watching them both with an expression of pure love. This was nothing like the life she'd planned. The prestigious partnership, the impressive career, the carefully controlled existence, none of it had survived her encounter with Ryan and Emma. But what she'd built instead was infinitely better. A family created from courage and choice, from the willingness to risk everything for something real. A life measured not in billable hours or case wins, but in Saturday mornings at the park and terrible homemade spaghetti and bedtime stories that ran too long. She'd spent 47 years building a perfect life on paper, and then she'd met a 29-year-old construction supervisor and his remarkable daughter, and everything had changed, not because she'd failed or given up or settled for less, but because she'd finally been brave enough to choose more. More love, more life, more of everything that actually mattered. Victoria Hale had always won her cases by knowing when to hold her ground and when to negotiate. She'd built her career on strategic thinking and careful planning, but the best decision of her life had been the one she made with her heart instead of her head. The choice to say yes to coffee in the park, yes to a relationship that made no sense on paper, yes to becoming a mother when she'd thought that ship had sailed, yes to building a home with a man who saw her completely and loved her anyway. And now, with a ring on her finger and a daughter sleeping in her arms and a future full of messy, beautiful possibility, Victoria knew with absolute certainty that she'd chosen right, not the safe choice, not the expected choice, not the choice anyone would have predicted for her, but the choice that had saved her from a life that looked perfect but felt empty. The choice that had shown her what it meant to truly live instead of just exist. The choice that had finally brought her home,